Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, was released in 1964 to acclaim as a satirical classic. Stanley Kubrick's Cold War comedy tells the story of nuclear annihilation triggered by one general and the hapless politicians and military men who can't stop it. My name's John, and the deviated preverts with me are Matt.
He went a little funny in the head. You know, just a little funny.
And Westy.
Always did wonders for a man, that Jack. A little wash and a brush up, water on the back of the neck. Makes you feel marvellous.
We're in the war room to discuss Stanley and Soviet spies. But gentlemen, you can't talk in here. This is the podcast room. Hello, Dimitri. Sorry, hello and welcome to All the Right Movies.
Dimitri.
Let me finish, Dimitri.
I'm just as sorry as you are, John.
Telling the story of Hollywood one film at a time. And this episode, it's the end of the world as we know it.
Absolutely.
It is.
Hilariously so.
Yeah, Stanley Kubrick, Peter Sellers and more as we talk the Cold War classic satire that is Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
Indeed.
Should be a blast, if you'll pardon the expression.
Yep, should be.
Yep.
Big one.
Before we enter the war room, though, let's talk about our own bunker of bonus content on Patreon.
Absolutely.
If you're a regular listener to this, our main podcast, you can help support what we do by becoming an ATRM Patron. Patrons get access to our bonus podcast episode called Double Feature, where we talk about two films and decide which will be discussed on our big show, and The Watch List, our monthly show where we review new releases.
Wow, yeah.
And you get access to our whole podcast archive full of bonus episodes and archived episodes. There's more content in there now than you can shake a nuclear warhead at.
Yeah.
So if you're a Kubrick fan, we have Full Metal Jacket and The Shining. Plenty of other great titles as well. So to find out more, visit patreon.com/alltherightmovies or subscribe directly on Apple Podcasts, Spotify or YouTube. An offer you'd have to be as mad as General Ripper to refuse.
Yes, you will indeed.
You will.
Back to today though, and it's Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. I'll not be calling it by its full title every time from here on in, obviously.
Thank God.
Yeah, you're going to abbreviate it like you normally do.
Yeah. Well, you put this one up, Matt, so why are we talking about DSOHLITSWALTB?
Beautiful.
Well done.
Why break the habit of a lifetime? I love that.
I mean, this one, I've just been thinking it's been a very long time since we've covered anything Kubrick.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's still a good few films from him that we could cover, but this one, it's just always stood out to me because it's one of those films where you think, this shouldn't work at all. A comedy about nuclear annihilation, shot like a thriller crossed with a documentary. One actor playing three different parts, one of which is the most ludicrous OTT performance you'll ever see in your life. And with that title, this should be just a recipe for disaster, this one, and yet somehow Kubrick with Sellers, they've made one of the most incisive and funny satires to ever come out of Hollywood. I've always found this one hilarious, but how they pulled it off, I don't know, so let's try and find out.
Let's do it. Yeah, we're talking Kubrick. I think this was the fifth Kubrick film I saw. The order was Full Metal Jacket, 2001, The Shining, Clockwork Orange, and then this.
Right.
So even then I knew he was a serious, meticulous filmmaker.
Yeah.
But probably from Full Metal Jacket, I also knew he could be funny. But even so, this wasn't what I was expecting at the time, I don't think. I mean, how could it be? There'd not been anything like it before. I'm not sure there has been since, really.
Not
Not really. No.
And as always with Kubrick, there's loads for us to talk about.
Yeah.
The creative choices on Strangelove alone could make up a full podcast. They're that interesting and that outrageous to me. And you've got the way that it taps into the climate of the 60s, the Cold War, the Cuban Missile Crisis. That makes it a fascinating film of its time, but still timeless in some ways.
Yeah.
Very much.
And then you've got Peter Sellers playing three roles, legendarily. George C. Scott chewing bubblegum nearly as much as he chews the scenery.
Yeah, amazing.
All-time famous production design. One of the most famous, iconic images in all of cinema. And it's hilarious, so this is going to be massive.
Yeah.
Nuclear Armageddon, and I'm up for it.
Yeah.
And Westy, you've not stopped worrying as long as I've known you, so
No.
maybe this is your time.
It might be. Yeah, it might be. We shall see. But yeah, I mean, I got this. I think it was on a triple VHS with Barry Lyndon and A Clockwork Orange, I think.
Wow.
Blimey.
But I might be wrong, because I don't know if Clockwork Orange was available on VHS.
It was banned for a long time, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was, and I think that's how I saw them, but I don't quite know how I got a hold of that, but it's just vividly in my imagination. So there was them three that I kind of watched at the same time.
Triple feature.
And I kind of missed out on it a little bit, this one. Oh, it's black and white, I don't know. Not very accessible for me at that age. But now, I mean, honestly, this is so relevant even now. It's scarily relevant. And we're just laughing purely at fear. And really timeless is a timeless look at it. And it's the fragility and the just absurdity of masculinity, which is laced all over this film. It really is. So many things you can spot. So many things, Easter eggs that are just hidden in there. It's just a very, very clever film. And unfortunately, it's just the state of the world as it's been since. So it's one to dive into now, one to be wary about now, and definitely want to explore, especially in this current climate.
So, Dr. Strangelove was produced by Hawk Films, distributed by Columbia Pictures, and released on January the 29th, 1964. Filmed at Shepperton Studios in England with aerial photography shot over North America and the Arctic. It was directed by Stanley Kubrick, written by Kubrick, Terry Southern and Peter George, based on George's novel Red Alert, and stars Peter Sellers as President Merkin Muffley, Group Captain Lionel Mandrake, and Dr. Strangelove, George C. Scott as General Buck Turgidson, Slim Pickens as Major T.J. Kong, and Sterling Hayden as Brigadier General Jack D. Ripper.
Nice.
Yep.
Let's arm the warheads then, should we?
Let's do it.
Yep.
We're heading to Burbleston Air Force Base. It's Condition Red in the beginning of Dr. Strangelove.
Mein Führer, I can talk!
The beginning.
Dr. Strangelove opens like a slow-burning fuse, doesn't let up for 95 minutes, and we're starting off in the first act. The introductions to General Turgidson and the war room, so no fighting, you two. They're coming, but we're starting with a rogue general and a Boeing B-52 Stratofortress crew ready for action.
Yeah.
So the opening sets everything in motion. General Jack D. Ripper puts Burbleston Air Force Base on red alert and orders his bombers to launch a nuclear strike on the Soviet Union. Kind of a big deal.
Little bit.
Just a bit. Yeah.
Meanwhile, RAF Group Captain Lionel Mandrake starts to realise something is very, very wrong.
Indeed.
We're kicking off with you, Matt. So, how was the opening?
I mean, what you've got here is Kubrick just drip feeding you these little moments to make you realise something isn't quite right, and it's that contrast you get between Mandrake, who's this upbeat, very British, cheery character, and then what Ripper is like. That conversation of, do you recognise my voice? I do, sir. Why do you ask? What do you think, I ask? I don't know, sir. We spoke just a few minutes ago on the phone, didn't we? Yeah. Just so upbeat and great and polite. But something's off in this conversation, and Mandrake is just too polite to question it. And when he gets told, they're moving to red alert, but for real, and he just goes, oh, hell. That's just like such a British middle-class reaction to bad news.
It's just a British way of humouring him, isn't it? He just humours his whole persona.
Yeah, which he does until he kills himself. It's all he can do to him.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And as well, you get this visual contrast as well, because Mandrake, he's in this hive of noisy activity, and then Ripper is just in complete solitude in his office. And I'll talk about this more in the cinematography, but I think Kubrick's use of space and how he isolates characters in these vast open spaces in this film tells us so much about the characters, because this guy has gone insane and there's no one around to stop him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can see Kubrick right from the start. Those opening helicopter shots over the Arctic mountains above the sea of clouds.
Yeah.
That's an unbelievable shot to start. Wow.
Yeah.
What a way in. And then it goes into what feels like a documentary. The shots of the planes, like airborne, with the narration about the bomber force. It's all really technical dialogue and gives this feeling of like a really serious threat straight away. And then we're dropped into the narrative with that phone call between Ripper and Mandrake. That conversation is crazy. That bit you mentioned, Matt, like Ripper's, do you recognise my voice? Yes, sir, we just spoke a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
That kind of like bizarre humour. It's like Airplane.
Yeah, it is.
Ripper could easily be saying, do you like movies about gladiators or something?
Surprised he doesn't.
Do you like Spartacus?
But calmly ordering Armageddon, while Mandrake's doing that very typically British thing of trying to remain polite while the world falls apart. It's the first time we see something Kubrick does all the way through, where he sets up contrasts. Here it's contrasting tones and contrasting the acting styles between Sellers and Hayden. That's there for the whole film, and we get it straight away. The tone of the film shifts like 3 times in the first 90 seconds or something, but all still fits together really well. And that's just Kubrick for me, just this like expert controlled filmmaking without us really noticing what's going on.
Yeah.
And those opening credits, they are a montage of B-52 bombers refueling midair with the titles over the top. And that sequence was created by designer Pablo Ferro, and he was known for creating TV commercials which had quick cutting styles with large bold text. And Kubrick wanted that to be the visual identity of Dr. Strangelove, so hired Ferro.
Yeah, that hand-drawn font for the credits, that like tall, thin script, I love that.
Yeah, it's great.
We need more credits like that.
Yeah,
do,
definitely.
yeah.
The lettering's not bold, but I think the choice to use it is because it's really striking. It does create that like visual identity.
It fills the spaces as well, just like the whole screen. But I think with the sexualization of the imagery, especially with the machines kind of refueling, I think it just sets the whole sexual frustration of the whole film up, that masculinity and that side of it. It's really, really good, really clever.
Have you seen Stop Making Sense, the Talking Heads documentary?
Yeah.
They use the exact same font, or one that's very similar, yeah.
Yes, they do. That's right. Yeah.
I've got a T-shirt of that.
Of course you have.
And the idea to shots of the bombers came from a conversation between Kubrick and Ferro. Kubrick asked Ferro what he thought about human beings and technology, and Ferro said that all machines invented by men have a sexual aspect, as Westy mentioned there. It made Kubrick think of the image of B-52s refueling in midair, but he also knew filming it would be difficult. So Ferro said he was sure the Air Force would have been so proud of the technology that they would have filmed the process from every angle, and he was right, and so they were able to get stock footage, which is what we see in the film.
Amazing.
What do you think of human beings is the most Kubrick question you could be asked, I think.
Probably the first thing he asked him as well. Like,
Probably the first thing you ask anyone.
But like you're saying, Wesley, there is a theme of sex, I think, that runs through the whole film.
Yeah.
Talk about it as we go, it kind of starts here. Have you noticed the error in the titles as well?
Go on.
When it credits Peter George's book, it says base on Red Alert rather than based on Red Alert.
Oh, right, okay.
It's missing the D, but also based on Red Alert. It seems like it could be intentional, maybe.
I think so, yeah.
he's not overlooking that Kubrick, like, is he?
I know, I would be surprised.
I'd be very surprised if he missed that.
Clever bastard, isn't he?
Yes, he is that.
And the idea of the refueling being sexual is the reason the credits are scored with an instrumental version of Try Little Tenderness. The song was written by Harry M. Woods, Jimmy Connolly and Reg Connolly, and it was first recorded in 1932 by Jack Payne and his band. The version here was arranged by Laurie Johnson, who wrote the score for the film.
Yeah, so Otis Redding's version, that came out in 1966. Probably the most famous one, I think.
Yeah.
Apart from The Commitments, obviously.
Obviously.
But the titles, the images and the music in that sequence all syncs up to create such a strong, like, unique identity straight away, I think.
So Kubrick's original plan, it was a different opening altogether. An early draft of the script begins with aliens in outer space coming across the remains of a destroyed Earth. We then go back to explaining the story of what happened to destroy the whole planet. Very Kubrick. That sounds crazy, but then when you watch 2001, you go, actually, that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. It's quite interesting that he's desperate to shoehorn aliens in there. 2001, already bubbling away under the surface, maybe?
Yeah.
Came straight after this one, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But I can't picture that scene without imagining the aliens from The Simpsons.
Yeah. Kang.
Kang and Kodos in there.
Kang and Kodos, yeah, that's right.
And Kubrick reportedly considered Gene Kelly as playing Ripper before asking Sterling Hayden. Hayden had already worked with Kubrick on The Killing and had recently retired from acting, so had made a film in 5 years, but Kubrick convinced him to play the part. Hayden said that he told Kubrick, "You've got the wrong man to play the part of a general," and Kubrick replied, "And that's why I want you."
Brilliant.
Yeah, at the time, Hayden had apparently been living on a ferry boat in California writing his autobiography.
Right.
Which sounds rather pleasant.
Wow.
Needs another chapter, so just do it.
Yeah. Need a Kubrick chapter.
Yeah, of course you do.
I think he's really good as Ripper. He's very deadpan and sincere, but still manages to come across as, like, totally insane somehow.
Yeah, he's brilliant, yeah.
And again, I see a huge influence on parody comedies. Like, have you ever seen a comedy drink a glass of water? That could be like a Mel Brooks line or something.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
He's insane, but it's done with such subtlety.
Yeah, it is subtle, you're right.
Hayden had a real-life military background. During World War II, he worked for the Office of Strategic Services, which became the CIA later, ran guns and parachuted into Yugoslavia and fought alongside communist resistance fighters for 13 months.
Wow.
Unlike Ripper, he liked communists and joined the Communist Party, USA, after the war ended. He said his war experiences gave him great insight into how someone like Ripper might actually think.
Yeah, in 1951, under like McCarthyism, the FBI apparently threatened custody of Hayden's children. So he testified and named names.
Wow.
Including a woman called B. Williams. She was his mistress at the time, and she'd recruited him to the Communist Party. And Robert Lees, who was a screenwriter in Hollywood, and it kind of ended his career.
Wow.
And Hayden said later that naming names was the one moment in his life he was truly ashamed of.
Yeah, I bet.
Right, yeah.
And again, I reckon that contrast is probably why Kubrick wanted him. And they had that link from The Killing, so knew we could get him, I guess, as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like this character is just a parody of Hayden himself, which really works.
Pretty much, I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so continuing the first act, now we're introduced to the bomber crew in the B-52. And as John said at the top, ready for action. I don't really think these guys are, let's be honest.
Far from it.
Yeah, reading Playboy, card tricks, and they're all having snacks. It's just very much, this parody of what you would think. But at the same time, it can be played quite straight. I think that's the whole point. And we'll get to Slim Pickens' performance later on. Don't really want to spoil that yet.
Yeah.
But these guys are just, they seem completely inept. But at the same time, very switched on. Like when that comes through and they get the wing attack, it's just ludicrous on so many levels. I love that crash zoom to just see the little code that's coming up. And they get the news, and it's Kong's character who's kind of in charge of everything, and he's making all these big decisions, and he's just already assumed as he's opening the safe, he sees it, he knows it's something serious, it's been confirmed. I love the way his cowboy hat's in the safe. It might not be, but that's where he gets it from, I think. That's where he has it after that moment, which I think is fantastic. He's ready for action, so that's going on. And then he sits in the cockpit and he realises what's going to happen. And he gives this incredible speech, which if you play that down, or if you give that to Bill Pullman on Independence Day, you're punching the sky.
Yeah.
You're all going to get remembered for this. But it's just the way that it's played so ridiculously straight. It's great dialogue. And if you're reading that, you're thinking, wow, this is going to be really patriotic. This is what I'm doing it for. Like I'm sacrificing myself for the greater good. And Kong hasn't got any idea about what nuclear warfare entails whatsoever. Once all this is done, we're going to get citations, no matter your colour or creed. No, everyone's going to be dead, bro. Everyone's going to be dead. Like you drop that, it's the end of the world. And we're in deep trouble if these guys are in charge. So it's a really good setup of the crew and a really good setup of this kind of subplot that's going to go all the way through the film.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't look too bad at first. Playing cards, reading Playboy.
Yeah.
I like how mundane it all is until it kind of isn't suddenly. That documentary-style narration we talked about, that's already told us how armed the bombers are.
Yeah.
And I think that's backed up with the visuals in the bomber as well. The interiors look so authentic.
Yeah.
Like, really claustrophobic. I feel like I can't breathe when we're in there.
Yeah.
And obviously our intro to Slim Pickens as Major Kong, the cowboy, one of the key characters. And nice to see James Earl Jones in there as well.
It is lovely to see Jones, yeah.
Lieutenant Lothar Zog, he's called.
Yeah.
His film debut it was.
Yeah.
And the scenes aboard the B-52 were filmed at Shepperton Studios, and the flight deck set was created by production designer Ken Adam. At the time, the imagery of the interior of the bombers was classified, so they couldn't get access to it. So the art director, Peter Muron, found a non-fiction book called Strategic Air Command by Mel Hunter, and that gave information about US Air Force technology at the time.
Yeah, that cover of that book's got a partial shot of a B-52 cockpit.
Right.
And based on that, they designed kind of the whole set. So a lot of guesswork, I guess.
All right.
But to get it that right, I think he, good on him.
Yeah, exactly.
Good guesswork. Great guesswork.
And then during filming, US Air Force personnel visited the set and told Kubrick the set was almost 100% accurate. Even the CRM, the machine which verifies the 3-letter code messages, that was fictional, but looked exactly like the black box on board a B-52.
Wow.
Yeah, freaked the Air Force guys out, apparently. Thought they'd been compromised by Kubrick.
What does classified even mean?
Yeah.
And Ken Adams said the day after that visit, he received a memo from Kubrick saying, just to confirm, all your research came from legal sources, right? Which it had, and they had made most of it up.
Right.
But the detail on the walls with the switches and the readouts, it's crazy. It's brilliant.
Mm-hmm. No, it's really good. Yeah, I mean, you could do a crash zoom to any of it and it would work.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And that's our opening. Rogue Generals, Cowboy Bombers, and the beginning of the end of the world.
Yep.
We've met some of our main players. Time to head to the war room and meet some more, I think.
Let's do it.
I think we should.
From Burpelson Air Force Base in the skies over the Arctic, we're heading to the Pentagon. The introduction to the war room and US President Merkin Muffley's on our radar, and also General Buck Turgidson bursts onto the scene.
He does.
So, Westy, what do you make of all this?
I mean, it's great. His introduction's fantastic. Just his voice. But I mean, the way this scene is set up is fantastic. We're talking about 3-4 minutes.
Yeah.
The camera doesn't necessarily move. It's an incredible setup because it has to hold your attention. I mean, Tracy Reed's in there, which really helps. She's fantastic in this.
Yeah,
Looks
she's
the
good.
part, acts the part.
Yeah.
She's incredibly funny without trying to be incredibly funny. The way she takes all of his messages and softens them and makes them more professional. She's just a secretary in every sense.
Yeah.
It's like the general suggests calling General Ripper. It's like, oh, each suggests. Get him to call General Ripper. Oh, I'm saying about you not do all this shit. It's just absolutely brilliant. And then when he gets on the phone, it's just a complete change of pace totally from what she was saying, because she's absolutely wonderful, Miss Scott. And then he just gets the phone and he's like, Fred, Buck, what's it look like? I absolutely love it. He's straight down the line. And he's like, tell you what we're going to do. Tell you what I'm going to do, buddy. And then just slaps his belly. Absolutely love that. And then he's just giving excuses to her as if she hasn't heard the whole fucking conversation and this whole setup, and you don't realise it, but it sets up his whole performance throughout the entire film, and that he's just sexually frustrated.
Yeah.
She's waiting. She's like, I'm not tired, I'm here. And he's like, oh, right, fuck it. And it just really sets up his character, his eagerness, and again, how fragile he is as a man and how he can't just like prioritize anything but his sexual output. That's all he wants to do is get back there to Miss Scott, and it's just not happening. So he's prepared to kill 20 million people just to get laid, which is absolutely outrageous. But that's very much the character. Great setup and great performance from Scott. He's just incredible in this whole film.
Oh, it absolutely is. I think it's a really interesting intro to Turgidson, because we're basically meeting him through Miss Scott, like you're saying. She's on the phone to Freddie.
Yeah.
And it's worth remembering, I think, that this film was being written and in production when JFK was in office.
Yeah.
Like, politics and romance weren't seen as separated as they once had been, maybe.
Right.
So having a general secretary also be his mistress, I think that might be a joke about how Washington was viewed at the time, possibly.
Nice, yeah.
But as a scene, it's all exposition. Miss Scott's basically telling us what's happened so far. But I love how Kubrick's thought it all through to deliver it without just feeling like a dump of information. Because she's there in a bikini yelling at someone off screen who just replies in grunts. Like, we have to think of everything around here. And that shot with the mirrored wall behind her, firing off reflections all over the place, that's visually so interesting for what could have been really dull. Classic Kubrick.
It is, yeah.
And then from there, we go to Ripper's PA announcement across the base, telling the men to get ready for battle. So we go from this, like, intimate, slightly bizarre domestic scene with Miss Scott to the madman ordering nuclear war. And Kubrick keeps cutting between these different tones, like, seamlessly, which I always find impressive when I watch the film.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about it, Miss Scott, played by Tracy Reed, and she is the only woman in the film. And she said she met Kubrick at a dinner with friends. They spoke, and he asked her if she wanted to play Miss Scott, though he warned her she would be in a bikini for her only dialogue scene.
Yeah, and Tracy Reed, she was the daughter of Penelope Dudley Ward, a well-known actress from the 30s and 40s.
Right.
And the stepdaughter of Carol Reed, the very well-known director.
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah, the third man, Oliver, he did.
Yeah.
Matter of time before we talk about him, surely.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And we do actually see Tracy Reed in one other scene. In the first scene on the bomber, Miss Scott is the model in the Playboy that Kong is reading. Reed said that Kubrick wanted to shoot it as a Playboy centerfold, by which we mean naked, but she refused, and they did the shot we see instead, which is Miss Scott lying on her front, covered by a real Foreign Affairs magazine.
Yeah, Miss Foreign Affairs, she's known as.
Yeah, brilliant.
And Tracy Reed said that her mother was like furious with her doing that shoot.
Oh, really?
Because there are some slightly more risque shots that she did as well, yeah. But that edition of Foreign Affairs, which is covering her, that was January 1963. And apparently it's got a famous article written by Henry Kissinger where he talks about the Cold War nuclear tensions.
Right.
So even that magazine was chosen for a specific reason. Like
Ludicrous.
Kubrick, attention to detail.
Ridiculous, this.
Cuba, Chris.
But she is really good, Tracy Reed. She's only in the one scene, isn't she? It's a delivery of those lines on the phone. It's really good.
She's so funny.
Yeah, she sets up every phone conversation in the whole film.
Yeah.
So we follow Turgidson into the war room, where he's got to explain the situation to the president, and this is when we first meet him as well. In this scene where he's explaining it, this is like when you're at school and the teacher's asking you to explain an answer you've just given and you're just not sure about it. You know, I don't know, but will you stop talking to me? But Muffley will not let this go. And Scott is so funny in the scene. The fact he's got a file called World Targets in Megadeaths, just casually on the table, just leaning on that. The more and more he sinks under Muffley's questioning, the more intense his gum chewing gets, because he's got nothing but bad news for the president. Everything the president says, well, isn't this going to happen because of it? Well, no, Mr. President, because as you might remember, we instituted this and this is therefore not going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's so funny when he reads our Ripper's statement and he gets to the end. God willing, we will prevail in peace and freedom from fear and in true health through the purity and essence of our natural fluids. In that pause,
Yeah.
he's just read that for the first time. He's like, oh my God, Ripper is nuts. What does this mean?
Yeah.
And Muffley is obviously furious, and I love how defensive Turgidson gets, like when Muffley calls him out for this whole scenario going wrong. I don't think it's quite fair to condemn a whole programme because of a single slip-up, sir. I mean, this is some slip-up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so funny.
I've just had a look there, and I was really hoping that that's where Megadeth got the name from, but it isn't.
Oh, shame.
Dave Mustaine read a political pamphlet on a bus. Oh, that's a shame, because I would fucking love that.
Maybe it was written by Buck Turgidson.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, but the war room where most of the famous scenes take place, we have just met Turgidson, like we just talked about.
Yeah.
But here, where he's explaining the whole situation to the president, George C. Scott's just superb.
Yeah.
Oh, he's unbelievably good.
The way he delivers all this military jargon with loads of enthusiasm, he's way too excited at the prospect of nuclear war.
He really is.
The bit when he's explaining the safeguards that prevent like an accidental attack, and we've literally just seen those safeguards getting completely bypassed by Ripper.
Yeah.
And it's our intro to Sellers as President Muffley, Merkin Muffley, outrageous name.
Yeah.
And just the way the war room looks,
Oh, it's amazing.
it's so iconic. It's been the go-to look ever since for satirical TV, cartoons or comic strips, anything really. If you're showing powerful people playing with people's lives, this is the kind of image you use. Big round table, big board full of maps, and everyone gets it as soon as they see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's because of this film.
And obviously it was going to be shot exclusively in black and white, but Kubrick requested to have green felt put on the table so it felt like a massive poker table
Yeah.
in the same kind of mindset, which I think is fantastic. Green looks great in black and white as well.
Right.
It looks great, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've mentioned production designer Ken Adam already, and his most famous piece of work on Dr. Strangelove, as we're saying, is The War Room. And he'd been born Klaus Adam before his family fled Nazi Germany, and he studied architecture at UCL. This led to a career as a set designer, and he'd worked on Dr. No in 1962, designing the nuclear reactor set. Kubrick had been impressed by that and saw something in that style working for The War Room, so he asked Adam to come in.
Yeah, I love that set in Dr. No.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Incredible, yeah.
Yeah, so good.
He worked on 7 Bond films in total. Mm-hmm. He didn't do From Russia with Love only because he was working on Dr. Strangelove.
Right, okay.
But all the other early Bond films he was on, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's like the volcano base and You Only Live Twice.
Right.
Yeah, he was on that, yeah.
You can tell they've got that real consistency to them where they're all massive but really, really cleverly thought through.
Goldfinger, Thunderball, Diamonds Are Forever, Moonraker.
Yeah, Fort Knox and Goldfinger is amazing.
That was him, yeah. That was him.
Yeah, amazing.
And Adam said he'd heard Kubrick was difficult to please. Yes, he was. So he was surprised when Kubrick signed off his first design for the War Room immediately. But then a few weeks later, Kubrick came back and said it wasn't going to work and the whole thing had to be redesigned. Adam had designed it to be on 2 levels, like Dr. No. Kubrick had said yes and then said, actually, what am I going to do with all the extras on the 2nd level?
Do it again.
Yep.
Adam said that he had to take some Valium to calm himself down after Kubrick told him to start again. And then Kubrick watched over his second design like a hawk, like approving every tiny detail.
Yeah.
I mean, that's more like Stanley, isn't it? Stressing everyone out.
That's the Stanley we know and love. Yeah. And the final War Room set was built in Studio B at Shepperton. It was 130 feet long, 100 feet wide and 35 foot high. The floor was made from formica, so the crew had to wear slippers to not scratch the floor. The centerpiece was that circular table, which is 22 foot in diameter. Over 10 miles of cables and 1,000 light bulbs were used to light the board, and the whole set was built by over 150 workers.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of the biggest sets ever. It was at the time. Mm-hmm. And they had to install air conditioning because the light bulbs were so hot that they blistered all the maps on the big board.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Okay.
But yeah, one hell of a set, isn't it? It's unbelievable.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Adam said his working relationship with Kubrick revolved around a daily ritual. Adam drove Kubrick to and from Shepperton Studios every day in his Jaguar. He said at first this was good because he learned what Kubrick liked quickly, but after a while it meant he was getting feedback on his work twice a day. Not good. He said it was miserable, and when Kubrick asked him to work on 2001: A Space Odyssey, he said no.
Yeah, he also said that on those daily drives to Shepperton, Kubrick wouldn't let him go 1 mile above 30 miles per hour.
Can I put the radio on? Fuck off. Listen to what I've got to say.
But he did work with Kubrick again on Barry Lyndon.
Right.
And on that, Ken Adams said that he had a nervous breakdown as a result.
Wow.
Yeah, ended up in hospital. Although he said that he and Kubrick always remained friends. It sounds like Stockholm Syndrome or something.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get into Peter Sellers on this one as well. It's very similar, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And that is that on the beginning of Dr. Strangelove. We've been to Burleson Base, the Pentagon, and the War Room, met our main characters, so we should probably talk a bit more about the biggest character of all, the guy behind everything.
Yeah.
Definitely.
The director.
The director of Dr. Strangelove was the inimitable Stanley Kubrick. This was his 7th feature film, having already made a name for himself with titles like The Killing, Paths of Glory, Spartacus, and Lolita.
Yep.
A switch into pitch black comedy about nuclear annihilation, though, that was new territory even for the big fella.
Yes.
So, Matt, how's Kubrick's work here as director?
I mean, as you're saying, it takes some balls to make a comedy about nuclear annihilation just 2 years after the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That scenario looked to be unavoidable, and that's in very, very recent memory. So for Kubrick to look at that and go, I can make that funny, that takes some nerve. I'm sure that's how he put it as well.
That's exactly what he said. Yeah, amazing.
And it's really brave because he never pulls back from it. The film literally ends with the end of the world, and he doesn't give any false hope. Everything that happens in this is frighteningly plausible because Kubrick knows how to tiptoe that line between comedy and horrible reality.
Yeah.
The amount of times you laugh at this and then go, oh, you know what, I shouldn't laugh because that's so believable. Like a drunk Russian president. We've seen that in our lifetime. Like, what is to stop an American general just going mad and launching the jets? Nothing, apparently. And for Kubrick to look at all that and go, I'm not going to actually shoot this like a comedy. This isn't going to be Mel Brooks. It's going to be stark black and white, the feel of a documentary. He knows how far to let certain performances go before pulling them back. And zero hand-holding for the audience. Just incredibly brave filmmaking.
Yeah, I think it is as well. He'd already made classics by this point, Kubrick, so he was highly thought of. But I think it's with Strangelove when he became the filmmaker we mean when we talk about him today.
Yeah.
This is the point where his identity went from Stanley Kubrick, talented filmmaker, to Kubrick, like extraordinary filmmaker.
Yeah.
And this is Kubrick at his most outrageous, I think, certainly then. To take the fear of nuclear war, something that was keeping people awake at night in 1964, and turn it into a comedy, that's mad. It does take guts, like you said, Matt. And not just any comedy, it's a total farce. It's like ludicrous.
Yeah.
But that's the point. He's basically saying the whole system that's designed to protect us is so crazy and absurd that the only response you can have is to laugh at it. As we often say with Kubrick films, that's a timeless theme, unfortunately. And we get what you get from Kubrick. Every frame composed like to the millimetre. Every acting performance hits the kind of note Kubrick wants. The writing's out there, especially for the time.
Yeah.
And somehow it all comes together into that one like unified vision. And that's obviously Kubrick controlling all that. And we only really get 3 locations, which are mainly Ripper's office, the War Room, and the B-52.
B-52, yeah.
And I find the way that he cuts between them pretty interesting, because sometimes they cut from the War Room to the bomber crew planning to like end civilization in a serious way to increase tension. Sometimes we'll cut from Ripper's office to a bonkers telephone call in the War Room in a way that's really funny. And to manage those shifting tones with the control Kubrick does, I think that's just someone who understands how cinema works. He just kind of gets it. In Strangelove, it's comedy satire, and I think what Kubrick gets is that to make it work, he's making a point, lots of points, but he doesn't tell us what to think, really. He just shows us the craziness and lets us draw our own conclusions. I don't think anyone's portrayed as evil, really. They're portrayed as believers in something that doesn't really work. If anything, that's more unsettling than a normal villain would be, because it's probably more realistic. And I think this, along with Full Metal Jacket, is surely Kubrick's most just entertaining film. His only out-and-out comedy, and the fact that it's also thought it was one of the most powerful pieces of political satire Hollywood's ever done. I think this film is one of the reasons that we call him like a master filmmaker.
Yeah, I mean, this one on the surface looks like his least pretentious film, but at the same time, it's probably his most pretentious film. When you dive into it and figure out what made him kind of the director that he is. And this is the one, like you said, John, I think this is the one where he puts his foot down and said, this is not a studio film, this is a Stanley Kubrick film.
Yeah.
I'm going to have complete control over absolutely everything on this, and I'm not here to make any friends. It's really, really gutsy to do, but it's just very hard-handed and very, very confident, and he's steamrolling his way through this. And for it to be a comedy as well, and for him to make his mark and figure out what kind of a filmmaker he wants to be through a satirical comedy is outrageously good. and outrageously brave. I mean, I can't think of another director either that's done a near perfect film in every genre.
Yeah.
And they all just have these kind of different themes running through them all, but to have a horror, a satirical comedy, a war film. I mean, I would love to have seen Stanley Kubrick's Western. That's the only one he was missing.
Oh, yeah.
That would have just been absolutely incredible. But this, he's got something to say. It's not just fluff. It's got a real kind of depth and a grounding and a weight. And it's just as terrifying and just as sad as it is hilarious. It's really sad when you get to the end of it.
Yeah.
You know when Buck gives that speech about how good the pilot is and we've trained him and this is what he's trained to do, and he's like, does he have a chance? And he's like, oh shit, yeah, actually we're all screwed because he does. I get that feeling of like, well, this isn't funny anymore. And he takes it that next step and keeps pushing it. I mean, you've got Kong on the bomb, which is again really sad. Ripper losing his mind completely is really sad. And Kubrick's just got complete control over everything. So that's the kind of filmmaker he was, and he really finds his voice in this. Nobody's going to tell him to shut up. This is where he learned how to shout, and you can really see it.
Yeah, it's a good point, Westy. I agree. There is like a kind of underlying sadness to everything, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Which gives it its seriousness and makes it timeless and makes it really work. And he knew that. This is comedy chess. This is what this is.
Nice. Yeah. And the producer on Kubrick's last 3 films had been James B. Harris. Harris said that Kubrick had become obsessed with the Cold War paranoia about nuclear war and knew he wanted his next film to be based on that. In researching it, he read about 50 books on the subject and spoke to the Institute for Strategic Studies in its head, Alistair Buchan, told him to read Red Alert, a novel by Peter George.
Nice.
Yeah, the Institute for Strategic Studies is a security and defence think tank that's based in London. It's still going today.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And a Nobel Prize winner called Thomas Schelling, he'd written an article for The Observer where he praised the book Red Alert, and he said that Kubrick spoke to him about it as well. So, doing the research, that's not like Stanley, is it? All over it.
Yeah, just the 50 books.
Yeah. Just imagine the Zucker brothers just reading about every single aviation rule and all the airplanes in the world just to make airplane. It's not going to happen, is it? That's the difference, I think.
And Kubrick was impressed with Red Alert and bought the film rights for $3,500. The book was a thriller, actually, but Kubrick decided to make it as a dark comedy instead. And that's when Terry Southern came in as his co-writer. And when James Harris left as producer to become a director, Kubrick took on the role of producer himself.
Wow.
Of course he did.
Of course he did. So thorough. He'd learn every instrument just to make Spinal Tap, wouldn't he?
Probably would. That's why I didn't do a musical.
The orchestra had to direct violin next.
But Terry Southern coming in apparently led to a rift between Kubrick and Peter George, and turning into a satire, some say it led to James Harris leaving the project.
Right.
Although some say that he did want to become a director as well.
Right, okay.
He's got to fall out with someone, Kubrick, hasn't he? So,
Well, of course.
It's not a Kubrick film if he hasn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't butt heads with him. You'd break your neck, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So when Harris left Strangelove, the production company 7 Art Productions went with him. Kubrick approached Columbia Pictures instead, and they agreed to put up the $1.8 million budget on one condition. Peter Sellers had to play 4 roles.
Outrageous stipulation.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Too many. It's far too many.
It's crazy. It came from Lolita, though, didn't it? Where Sellers played 2 roles.
Yeah.
Columbia thought that was why it was a success. But Kubrick just agreed. Yeah, 4 parts. Why not?
Yeah, double it up. Why not? Yeah. Lolita wasn't a challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Sellers played another part in some production decisions. With the film set mostly in the US, Kubrick had planned to shoot there and had been looking at locations. And once Sellers was cast, though, he told Kubrick he couldn't leave London as he was in the middle of a divorce. This was why Kubrick switched to filming at Shepton Studios in London.
Yeah. Anne Howe, that was the name of Sellers' first wife he was divorcing.
Right.
And then just after Strangelove came out, he married Britt Eklund.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They got married 10 days after meeting each other.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, you would, wouldn't you? To Britt Eklund.
Well, yeah, it's Britt Eklund.
5 days for me.
I'd marry Peter Sellers after 10 days, to be honest. It's fucking hilarious.
And obviously after Strangelove, Kubrick had filmed all of his movies in England as well. Moved here, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah, good point.
After 2001, yeah.
Anthony Harvey had been the editor on Lolita, and Kubrick brought him back to work on Dr. Strangelove. He said he came to work with Kubrick by just calling him up and asking if he could work with him. This is funny though. He said Kubrick interrogated him like MI5 and asked him, what kind of hours do you work? What time do you go to bed? Are you married? Do you go on holiday? Harvey said Kubrick wanted somebody who was going to be there 7 days a week, 22 hours a day.
22 hours a day. Wow.
2 hours sleep.
That's all you need.
What time do you go to bed? Doesn't matter, Stanley. You're going to get us up anyway.
Yeah.
I would just say whatever time you say.
Yeah.
Like, coming to America, whatever kind of dog you like.
But I saw an interview with Anthony Harvey about Strangelove, and he said that Kubrick would sack him like every day. He'd say, "Go home and don't come back." And then the next morning he'd just be like, "Oh, hi, Tony," as if nothing had happened.
Oh, hey, Mark.
And Anthony Harvey, he went on to be a director as well. He did The Lion in Winter,
Oh, Pedro O'Toole.
Catherine Hepburn film.
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
Well, before we finish on Stanley Kubrick as director, well, I mean, we never finished on Kubrick as director, obviously.
Of course, we're not. Just started.
But we do have our first ATRM Patron question.
Okay.
So, as well as all those benefits we mentioned earlier, if you sign up to become an ATRM Patron, we'll answer your questions on the show as well. Mm-hmm. We have one now on Kubrick and war.
Okay.
So, Danon Hennessy is here.
Hello, Danon.
How you doing on?
And Danon asks, many directors showcase the horrors of war, but few point out the absurdity of it like Kubrick. Mm-hmm. Paths of Glory and Dr. Strangelove are a beautiful double feature for this. Are there any other films you would recommend in this vein? Mm-hmm. Nice question from Danon.
Yep, good one.
What do you think, Matt?
I've got 3. I mean, the first one doesn't need a recommendation from me. Everyone should watch it anyway. But I do think there's absurdity to Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That line, "Who's the commanding officer here? Ain't you?" I mean, that just sums it all up. No one knows what's going on in that film. No one knows who's in charge.
Yeah.
You know, Kilgore's there to do surfing, and that's it. Such absurdity to that.
So do we kill go?
Yeah, go on.
You know that smell? That gasoline smell?
That might be our best impression between us.
Definitely is. Any excuse to roll that out, I love it. I'd also say Three Kings, the George Clooney film, because that one set in Iraq. And I mean, the Americans know why they're there, and it's certainly not to help the people of Kuwait. It's for the gold, it's for the oil. Such absurdity in that.
David O. Russell as well, isn't it?
David O. Russell. And then the last one, maybe not so much the film, but definitely the TV series, MASH.
Of course.
Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah.
So I really emphasise the absurd comedy in that. But yeah, MASH as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like Danon says, Paths of Glory shows the absurdity of war, like in drama and tragedy, and Strangelove more with comedy. Mm-hmm. And then Full Metal Jacket by Kubrick kind of does a bit of both. So there's your triple feature, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
For other films in that style, yeah, MASH is an obvious one. Robert Altman did the film, and taking a field hospital in the Korean War, he finds a dark comedy in that. Mm-hmm. Catch-22 as well.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, not as good as the novel by some way, but the whole premise is about the insanity of military logic.
Yeah.
And more recently, I think Four Lions was a pretty good satire about would-be terrorists.
Oh.
Makes you laugh at something you feel maybe you shouldn't.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And In the Loop, the Thick of It spin-off, that's a more modern one about the lead-up to the Iraq War.
Yeah.
Funny and infuriating in equal measure, to me, that one.
Gandolfini's wonderful in that film.
He is very good.
Yeah.
I've got a few, yeah. I mean, there's a few that we've actually covered on the classic Apocalypse Now. We've covered, and Matt said that one. Bridge on the River Kwai.
Of course.
I think that shows a real absurdity.
Madness.
There's madness, it's actually said there, you know, so it kind of sums it all up. More recently, I think Jojo Rabbit kind of hit the nail on the head.
Oh, yeah.
If you're looking at Nazi Germany through the eyes of a child and just see how ludicrous that all seems, and again, really hard-hitting. Well, a couple that hark back a little bit. Kelly's Heroes.
Oh, great film.
The violence is secondary to this real oddball mission, if you excuse the pun, so that's one worth checking out. And again, Good Morning Vietnam, I think that really points out the madness within Vietnam through the eyes of a DJ, which again, Robin Williams absolutely nails that every single day of the week. What a great film.
Well, for his work on Dr. Strangelove, Stanley Kubrick was nominated for Best Director at the Oscars, and the film was nominated for Best Picture. Mm-hmm. Lost out to the same film for both, if you know what. A classic.
Oliver, it'll be some musical, won't it?
You know, A Million Miles Away, My Fair Lady.
Okay.
George Cukor, Best Director.
Right, okay.
So no major awards for Kubrick for Dr. Strangelove, but he did make one of the all-time acclaimed Hollywood satires, and for us, in taking the unthinkable and making it pretty hilarious, some great direction.
Yeah.
Impeccable.
Some of the best.
The cast.
There's a large cast of characters in Dr. Strangelove, but it's largely dominated by only a handful of actors. We've already talked about Sterling Hayden as General Ripper, and now we're going to discuss George C. Scott as General Turgidson and Slim Pickens as Major Kong in more detail, but not before we get into the man who plays not one, not two, but three of the main characters.
Yep.
Definitely.
So Peter Sellers plays 3 roles in Dr. Strangelove: President Merkin Muffley, the Commander-in-Chief trying to avert catastrophe, Group Captain Lionel Mandrake, the stiff upper-lip British officer trapped with a madman, and Dr. Strangelove himself, the wheelchair-bound former Nazi scientist whose mechanical arm has a mind of its own.
Yes.
3 different characters, 3 different looks, 3 different accents, Westy.
Yeah.
What do you make of Peter Sellers' triple threat?
It's 3 different actors, isn't it?
You might think so.
It feels like it. It definitely feels like it. And if you didn't really know, you kind of couldn't guess. I think it's just absolutely impeccable. He totally makes the film. I think if Sellers isn't in this film, we're in deep, deep trouble.
Yeah.
He pulls it apart and stitches it back together again. Every character that he plays is just as good as the last, and each one seems to have a depth, seems to have an emotion, seems to have a history, seems to have a reason to exist.
Yeah.
And they're all played just so beautifully, and he just gives his absolute all in this film, and I feel he did give his absolute all in this film, even to later on in life when he had heart disease and he was in hospital, and he actually said to his wife at the time, I think this is down to Stanley Kubrick, I think this is down to Dr. Strangelove, and the amount of pressure that he was under to nail all of these roles. And a lot of that pressure was why he didn't play the 4th role as well. So again, you can just see that. But watching this film, I mean, just the improv is some of the very best I've seen. It's just absolutely impeccable, and he's just such a natural talent, such a naturally funny man who just melds into each role, where you would expect to see Clouseau in everything he does.
Yeah.
But everything's fresh, like everything Sellers does is incredible.
Yeah.
I cannot give any more praise or heap any more praise on Peter Sellers for this film, because without him, like I say, it's nowhere near as good, and it's actually probably a massive, massive bomb.
Great pun.
Yeah, Alan Kubrick owes a lot to Peter Sellers in this film.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. What can you say? It's one of the most praised acting performances in all of Hollywood, I think.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I agree with Steve. I think if someone came to this with 0 film knowledge, they would never realise they were watching the same actor 3 times.
I don't think so either, no. I think I'd like showed it to the kids and be like, that's the same guy. Like, no, it's not.
Yeah, you can't see him really. I think Mandrake's maybe the most natural of the 3, that like stereotypical British politeness, trying to hide his panic about what's going on.
Yeah, he's the most Sellers, isn't he?
Definitely. Sellers was always great at that kind of repressed Englishman. That's kind of what I think of when I think of Peter Sellers, and that's Mandrake.
Yeah.
His scenes with Sterling Hayden are superb. I like how over-the-top calm Mandrake is all the time with Ripper. The bit during the battle where he's like frozen with fear, and he's like, Jack, I'd love to come over, but a rather unfortunate situation has arisen, because he can't move.
So good.
Stringing my legs gone.
When he shoots the lock on the door and he comes in, he's like, what kind of suit is that? What do you mean, shoot?
Yeah, shoot.
Shoot. Absolutely furious. He's pointing a gun at him.
I think Muffley's interesting because in the war room, he's kind of the straight man. At that point, everyone around him is insane. Turgidson and Strangelove and Alexei, the Russian ambassador.
Yeah.
And he's just this like reasonable, kind of ineffective guy trying to keep everything together. The calls with Dmitri, the Russian premier, they're the highlights of the film for me. It becomes the Peter Sellers show at that point. I mean, we don't get any shots of Dmitri, obviously, but I can definitely see him in my head.
Yes, you can see him because
He's like in a robe, isn't he, just with a cigar?
Loud music.
Yeah, in a big room, yeah.
Yeah, just furious, yeah.
I love it during the second call when Muffley's like, now, Dmitri, there's no point in getting hysterical. I always picture Dmitri like losing his mind on the other end of the call.
Just crying.
Yeah, it's the way his voice breaks, though, when he says getting hysterical. He's like, there's no need to be getting hysterical. And it's like he just like actually kind of accents the hysterical. It's so clever. It's so well done.
And then Strangelove himself, not in it quite as much, but his voice, that hair, the Nazi salute, one of the definitive like mad scientist images. Him and Doc Brown I always think of.
Yeah, massively. It's the way he says computer.
Yeah.
A computer. Brilliant.
And what I like is that Sellers manages to bring some kind of truth to each role. He's never winking at the camera or anything like that. I think Muffley and Mandrake do feel kind of grounded, and even Strangelove, who is ludicrous, is amazingly based to some extent on real people, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is like a historic comedy performance, for sure.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 3 for the price of 1, which is great. And the key thing for me is there's only one of these 3 that he's playing for laughs, which is Strangelove.
Yeah.
Muffley and Mandrake are so grounded and straight down the line. I mean, Muffley, the absolute epitome of just a middle manager, someone who shouldn't have this amount of responsibility because he can't handle it.
He doesn't know anything.
We'll get to the phone call in detail in a bit, but just when he just crumbles, well, it's good that you're fine and I'm fine. I agree with you. It's great to be fine. Like, that's the level he can work at, and that's it. And then you've got Mandrake, probably the most capable person in the film, and the epitome of that middle-class British officer. Everything has to be done by the rules, and he's so, as you've been saying, he's so unfailingly polite about everything. That bit where he's listening to the songs in the radios, and he's like, oh, this alert isn't real, and I'm going to tell Ripper this. And he says, well, you're used to Plan R. In fact, you're ordered to the entire wing. And then he clicks what Ripper's done, and he just goes, oh.
Oh.
I see. Right. The highest compliment I can pay Sellers here is it never feels like a gimmick. If it feels like a gimmick, the film doesn't work. It has to feel truthful, like you've been saying, John. Mm-hmm. When Muffley is talking to Strangelove, I'm never thinking that's Sellers talking to Sellers. I'm thinking that's Muffley talking to Strangelove.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think years before I ever even saw Dr. Strangelove, the first thing I knew about it, I think, was that Peter Sellers plays 3 roles in it. It's that kind of significant, I think, in, like, Hollywood.
Yeah.
So like we mentioned before, Columbia had originally wanted Sellers to play 4 roles, not 3. And the 4th role was actually Major Kong. And we'll talk about that when we mention Slim Pickens. But Kubrick was fine with Sellers playing multiple roles as he knew he could do it from Lolita. And Sellers was by far the highest paid cast member. He got paid $1 million for the film, which was about 56% of the production budget. There's a famous quote from Kubrick about Sellers' salary. He said, I got 3 for the price of 6.
Yeah. Great quote. There's also a good Kubrick quote about Columbia saying that Sellers had to play multiple roles. Mm-hmm. He called it a crass and grotesque stipulation. I mean, over half the budget's insane.
Yeah.
But you've got to say it kind of paid off, I think.
Oh, it definitely does.
Absolutely, yeah. That would have been fine for me.
Yeah.
And Sellers took some inspiration from real life for his 3 roles. He said that President Muffley was partly based on Adlai Stevenson, who was the Democrat candidate for the presidential elections in 1952 and 1956. And Sellers said that Muffley's Midwestern accent was based on Stevenson.
Yes, he lost to Eisenhower both times for the president, Adlai Stevenson, and he was the UN ambassador during the Cuban Missile Crisis, so a tie back into Kubrick's inspirations, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, yeah. Adlai Stevenson was bald, and Kubrick apparently wanted Sellers to actually shave his head for Muffley, but Sellers refused, so instead, makeup artist Stuart Freeborn made him a bald cap.
Yeah, Stuart Freeborn of Yoda fame.
Yoda fame, yeah.
But take a look at a picture of Adlai Stevenson if you don't know him. He does look just like Merck and Muffley.
Right.
Yeah. And Stuart Freeborn looks like Yoda. So
yes, he does.
Exactly. And that bald cap really needs to stand up because close-ups are like, if that doesn't work, it's terrible for the film. And it looks great. It looks like he's actually shaved his head, to be honest.
It does look great.
And when they first started filming, Sellers played Muffley as having a cold, but Kubrick wanted him to be a foil for everybody else's craziness, so told Sellers just play it more straight.
Right.
Yeah, he was playing it right up at first, apparently, like blowing his nose and stuff, and the crew kept cracking up, but Kubrick didn't want that. He wanted him to be the straight man.
Yeah.
But there's still a scene or two, if you've noticed, where we see Muffley wipe his nose with a handkerchief.
Yes.
That's a hangover from that earlier version.
Yeah.
Sellers had served in the RAF during World War II and had a reputation for impersonating his fellow officers.
Of course he did.
He said this was a direct, this was a direct influence on how he played Mandrake. He also improvised the line in Ripper's office where Mandrake says, "The string in my leg is gone," and the line was supposed to be, "The thing in my leg is gone."
Right.
Yeah, when they filmed that, apparently Sterling Hayden started laughing, but Kubrick was like, keep going, so they did, and that's the take that we see in the film.
Okay.
Yeah, because he says string, doesn't he? He says, string.
Yeah.
Yes, the string. Yeah.
We'll talk about the creation of Dr. Strangelove as a character shortly, but for his performances in Dr. Strangelove, Peter Sellers was nominated for Best Actor at the Oscars, the first time an actor had been nominated for playing 3 different characters in the same film.
Right. Yeah.
So it was notable, but he lost out to Rex Harrison, who played Professor Higgins in My Fair Lady.
My Fair Lady, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Just the one role for him. Lazy.
My Fair Lazy.
So, no Oscar for Peter Sellers, but a performance that has gone down in history. And for us, some pretty legendary stuff from him in Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, it's incredible.
It's flawless.
The second acting performance we're going to discuss is George C. Scott as General Buck Turgidson. The bombastic, gum-chewing, war-loving chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Turgidson is barely able to contain his excitement at the prospect of World War III. Yeah. So, Westy, what do you make of George C. Scott here?
It's gloriously stupid and gloriously wonderful and so bombastic and so ridiculous, but it holds up next to Sellers, and it shouldn't. And it really does.
Yeah.
It's the gravy next to his meat, but that's in the dish. It's just, it really complements, it really sits on the side.
Yeah. Always food analogies for you, Westy.
Always. Because I'm always hungry. And that's the point. But it works because everyone eats food and everyone understands gravy and meat. So there you go. That's what I'm talking about. And he's got this real presence. He's sexual frustration in human form. Just when he's shot with that low angle and some of the faces he pulls, he doesn't even need dialogue a lot of the time. He's got these really funny faces that he pulled. He's the reaction shots, especially when we're going to talk about when he's on the phone to Dimitri and he's just reacting to what's being said. It's like he hasn't got the intelligence to articulate it. He hasn't got the intelligence to put it into words. It's just these looks of like, can we get this over with? Because Miss Scott's at home for me and I've got something I need to be doing here. This is an amazing performance when you take away ego and you take away the seriousness of it and you have it played ridiculous. And C. Scott does that and nails it. He's just so watchable. It's fantastic. A great, great performance.
Yeah, George C. Scott, known mainly as a great dramatic actor, isn't he?
Yeah.
I first saw him as Scrooge in A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
And one of his big roles comes in Patton as well.
Yeah.
Serious war drama. So we know he's a powerhouse. But then here, total comedy. And he's just superb. I think the physicality of the performance is crazy. The way that he moves, his gestures, that famous pratfall that we'll talk about.
Yeah.
My favourite bit is the first time Muffley's on the phone to Dimitri, and there's a close-up on Turgidson. He's chewing his gum more intensely than I've ever seen anyone chew gum. That's so funny.
It's really funny. But it's when he's like just nudging, he's like, I wish we had one of those doomsday machines, huh? So why? It's the end of the world.
He's like a cartoon character come to life a bit.
He is.
But it never feels over the top. I mean, it would be in another film, I guess, but not this one.
Yeah.
What I love, I mean, love's probably the wrong word, but it's the enthusiasm Turgidson has for everything.
It's what you admire.
When he's explaining the doomsday scenario, he's like a kid at Christmas. He comes alive at the prospect of nuclear war.
Yeah.
That line about the casualties, no more than 10 to 20 million killed, tops. Depending on the breaks. He says that with like a huge grin on his face. It's funny, but also pretty chilling, because I don't find it hard to imagine at all that there've been real-life Turgidsons in positions of power over the years.
He's a man of zero consequence.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think Scott totally nails that, like, out there tone that Kubrick's going for. A great comic performance for me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I just completely agree. I think it's tribute to him that he goes up against Peter Sellers ×3 and still is just as memorable. And a lesser actor, I think, would be overwhelmed by Peter Sellers, but George C. Scott isn't. Yeah. And to me, it's why you've been saying he's a child in an adult's job. And that's how he views everything. It's this prism of America's great, the military's great, and everything's a game to him. Like that outburst when the Russian ambassador comes in. He'll see everything. He'll see the big board. Like, just the fact he calls it the big board.
To the big board.
He's tidying everything up off the desk.
He's just a kid. When they ask him, is the pilot going to get through? And he just goes off and on. Oh, big plane like a 52. Vroom, burning chickens in the barnyard.
Yeah.
And then he realises, yes, we will bomb them. We will get through. So, yeah, a brilliant comic performance that somehow manages to keep up with Peter Sellers at his very, very best. And that is no mean feat.
Easier said than done.
So the character of Turgidson was based on the Chief of Staff of the Air Force at the time, General Curtis LeMay. He was known for having extreme anti-communist views and once said that he wouldn't be afraid to start a nuclear war with the Soviet Union if he was president. Terrifying.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Wow.
And following from that, Ripper, he was largely based on General Thomas S. Power, who succeeded Curtis LeMay.
Right.
And there's a famous story about him, where during a meeting about the possibility of war with Russia, somebody said they should limit the nuclear attack to military targets, not civilians in Russia. And Power apparently said, why are we so concerned with saving lives? The whole idea is to kill the bastards. At the end, if there's 2 Americans and 1 Russian left, we win. Bloody hell. I mean, he had those real words, and Dr. Strangelove doesn't seem so far-fetched.
Definitely not, no.
No.
I mean, all the disclaimers attached to the film, you've got to think these maybe hit a nerve somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Kubrick had liked the idea of George C. Scott as Turgidson and went to see him in a Central Park version of A Merchant of Venice, where he played Shylock. That would have been incredible.
Yeah.
He approached him about playing Turgidson after that, and Scott agreed.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, he was like a Shakespearean thespian at the time. Get him in Dr. Strangelove, it's mad.
The Pound of Flesh speech would have been incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But James Earl Jones, he was also in that version of Merchant of Venice, and that's how Kubrick came across him and cast him as Zog, yeah.
Amazing.
Great voice on stage.
Oh, booming out. Oh, if I had a time machine, I'd go back and watch that for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Kubrick and Scott did have a bit of a tense relationship on the set at times, though. They were both expert chess players, so Kubrick brought a chessboard to the set. He would play Scott and beat him regularly. Kubrick's wife, Christiane, later said this made Scott respect Kubrick even more and gave Kubrick some control over him.
Yeah, Tracy Reed said that Scott would sit there like studying the board and take like 20 minutes to make a move, and then Kubrick would just walk over, make his move in a few seconds, and then walk off again. And Kubrick beat him like every time. Taking the piss.
What a dick.
Showboating.
Yeah.
Scott wanted to play Turgidson as what he called a dignified, well-intentioned extremist, more of a tragic figure than a buffoon. But Kubrick wanted the absurdity, so there was some creative tension between them. Kubrick asked Scott to do over-the-top performances, which would help him warm up for the more serious performances, but he used the over-the-top performances in the film.
That's amazing and ridiculous. I mean, how you lose a friend one-on-one and trust.
Yeah.
Because you didn't find out until the premiere.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Scott was filmed playing Turgidson as comedic and then serious, even though Kubrick knew he'd probably never use the serious takes. So, played Scott for a fool. Checkmate.
Wow.
Checkmate, yeah, every
Checkmate.
time.
Yeah.
It's really underhand, but I mean, that's how you get the film. It's all about the film, not about the person.
Yeah, well, for Kubrick it certainly is, yeah.
And he did something similar with Slim Pickens, which we'll get into as well.
Yeah.
Yes, as we're saying, when Scott saw the finished film, he was furious because the exaggerated performances were in there. He said he felt betrayed and vowed never to work with Kubrick again,
Yeah.
which he didn't, sadly.
Took it well then.
Yeah.
But apparently, in later years, Scott did say that Kubrick was right. And I mean, he was, wasn't he?
Oh, he's definitely right. Yeah.
Like we said there, I mean, the scene in the war room where Turgidson trips and falls over mid-sentence, that wasn't in the script at all. George C. Scott really tripped over in one of his bumbling moments, which is a fantastic film, but he stayed in character so well that Kubrick kept it in the film. Totally works for me. I love it.
You wouldn't know, would you? He doesn't miss a beat.
You wouldn't know at all. Yeah.
Like Matt said, it is really childish. It's what a kid would do.
Yeah, carries on. He's like pointing at the board.
Yeah. Big board.
Still pointing at it. I love that.
Well, George C. Scott received no Oscar nominations for Turgidson, and he famously refused his Best Actor Oscar for Patton 6 years later, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Yeah.
For us, though, he took some convincing, but a great comic performance from George C. Scott as General Turgidson.
Brilliant.
Still would like to see them other takes.
Oh, I'd love to, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The final cast member we're discussing in depth is Slim Pickens as Major T.J. King Kong. The B-52 bomber commander who takes his orders with patriotic gusto. He ends the film riding a nuclear bomb like a rodeo bull in one of cinema's most iconic images.
Yeah.
So, Matt, what do you make of Slim Pickens as Kong?
I mean, this character, I think he sums up the ridiculous nature of the film and of war, because he's in command of a plane with a nuclear bomb. And as we've been saying, he's barely paying attention to anything, just reading Playboy instead.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the recurring themes of the film is characters are in charge of things they should not be in charge of. And that's very true of Kong. And the scary thing about him is he's not necessarily an idiot. He's actually pretty capable at his job, as we'll see. And his men really trust him. But you don't want a man who, when he gets the orders to bomb Russia, just goes, right, best get that Stetson on then. Yeehaw, here we go.
Yeah.
It like goes into with the vitriol that he does. But yeah, Slim Pickens is great doing that.
Yeah, Slim Pickens. I mean, everyone remembers Sellers' multiple roles, rightly.
Yeah.
Loads of people remember Scott's comedic turn, but Pickens, I think, delivers a role just as important.
Yeah.
The difference is he's like totally sincere.
Yeah.
Pickens isn't playing Kong for laughs, and we'll talk about why. But when Kong's giving orders or rallying the crew in a cowboy hat, there's no irony in the performance.
No.
He like believes in the mission. He thinks he's doing his duty, and like lots of other things, that makes it funnier and also quite a bit more unsettling as well.
Yeah.
And that final image, riding the bomb down, waving his hat, whooping like he's at a rodeo, it's absurd and horrifying and somehow kind of heroic all at once.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's become one of the defining images of Kubrick's career, of Hollywood generally, of the whole nuclear war era generally, and Pickens sells it. So if you're coming in and leaving a film with as enduring an image as that, you've done all right, I think.
Did a good job, yeah.
I think he just plays the everyman that you would expect, that all-American hero, but a confused one. You know, if he just follows the rules, if he does whatever the guys at the top say, then he's going to become a hero. He's going to do the right thing. He can't do the wrong thing in the eyes of his country, in the eyes of his superiors. And I think that's the scary thing, that people are just that kind of machine-like and just focused on getting the job done, irregardless of that he's going to have to wipe himself out because of it, irregardless the plane's going to run out of fuel. Just that real blind ambition is fucking terrifying to me. Just the way this is played by Pickens is absolutely fantastic, because he does play it down the line. He does play that speech as if he means it. Just the celebration of riding that nuke down. He's yes, I've done it. Yes, someone's going to be proud of us. It's like he hasn't got a thought of his own. He hasn't got a motivation of his own. He hasn't got a moral compass or an ego. He cares about the guys in the plane, but not enough to turn around. I think it's just an American everyman of the time with that warmongering mind. And it's great where he got his name from as well. Do you know that?
No.
No.
So he was a rodeo clown, and he was going to continue in the rodeos, and then someone turned to him, you might as well be an actor, because if you stay in the rodeo, there's going to be Slim Pickens.
Oh, lovely.
Nice. Beautiful.
Made his name was Slim Pickens and became an actor, which I think is fantastic. But yeah, so good in this. Love him. I think he's great, but a terrifying character.
Why, for sure.
Very much like Kilgore, I think.
Are you going to do the impression again?
Not doing it again. Not doing it again.
And the character of Major Kong was based on Alvin Tex Johnston. Johnston was the chief test pilot for Bell Aircraft and Boeing in the 1940s and 50s, and like Kong, he flew wearing cowboy boots and a Stetson.
Amazing.
Yeah. What's insane is how lots of the most insane things in this film were, like, true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We mentioned earlier that as important as Slim Pickens is in the film, he wasn't the first person cast as Kong.
No.
That was Peter Sellers, wasn't it, Matt?
It was. So, yes, Sellers originally contracted to play 4 roles, including Major Kong, but from the start he wasn't keen on that 4th role. Before production started, he sent Kubrick a telegram which said, "Dear Stanley, I am very sorry to tell you that I am having serious difficulty with the various roles. Now hear this. There was no way, repeat, no way I can play the Texas pilot Major King Kong. I have a complete block against that accent." Terry Southern, the co-writer, he was Texan, so he recorded all of Kong's dialogue on tape for Sellers to practice against. That helped, and Sellers did manage one day filming as Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's behind-the-scenes shots of Sellers in costume as Kong. There's no footage, though. It would be interesting to hear Sellers doing that accent, I think.
Really would, yeah.
Yeah.
And then during filming, Sellers had an accident. He fell from a ladder in the B-52 set and sprained his ankle. It was already a physically demanding role, and doctors told Kubrick there was just no way Sellers could play Kong.
Kubrick must have been very dubious about that accident, I bet. You little chancer.
Sprained, is it? Yeah.
I don't think that was the case. I think it was more of an anxiety thing and a lot of pressure on Sellers. So I don't think that injury was particularly true.
I wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
Yeah.
Kubrick, though, wanted to keep the Texan persona and sent a telegram asking John Wayne if he wanted to play Kong, but he didn't reply.
Fucking brilliant.
That'd been amazing. He also asked Dan Blocker, who was the star of Bonanza, but his agent replied and said, "Thanks a lot, but the material is too pinko for Dan, or anyone else we know for that matter."
Right.
Yeah, too pinko means too left wing, basically.
Yeah.
And there's no way John Wayne's doing it. He was right wing as hell, wasn't he?
He wasn't having this, like...
He probably wouldn't have known the difference. I'll do it whenever I do a bomb. I can write a bomb. Of course, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Told me you had lung cancer. We're going to have to take one of your lungs out, John. I take them both out. I don't fucking need them.
And as was said, Slim Pickens had started in rodeo, working for 20 years as a rodeo clown before moving into movies, and he'd been in several westerns, including One-Eyed Jacks in 1961, and that's what brought him to the attention of Kubrick.
Nice.
One-Eyed Jacks, starring and directed by Marlon Brando, his only director credit.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Right?
But the first person attached to direct that film was Kubrick.
Really?
He'd pulled out to direct Lolita.
All right, wow.
Yeah, so there was some kind of link back to that.
Crossover there, yeah, nice. Dr. Strangelove was shot in London, and Pickens had never travelled outside of the US. It took over a month to apply for and get a passport to travel to England, so his scenes were the last ones to be shot. And Kubrick apparently didn't tell Pickens that they were making a comedy, which is what we've been talking about all the way through.
Right.
So he's only shown the script for the scenes he was in, and Kubrick had him play the part absolutely straight and had everyone else on that B-52 know that Pickens was playing it straight, and he had no idea again.
If that's him playing it straight, imagine him doing it as a comedy.
God, yeah.
Would have been off the scale.
Yeah. You can kind of see, though, he's really taking it seriously, and he was pretty upset as well. They would have been lining up at the premiere just to punch Kubrick.
yeah. But yeah, I think Slim Pickens was like a real-life cowboy, basically. James Earl Jones said that he thought Pickens was playing a method and staying in character all the time, and then he just realised, oh no, that's just him.
That's how he's doing it, yeah.
And according to Reconstructing Strangelove, the making of Dr. Strangelove book by Mick Broderick, there were some interesting casting choices for some other roles too. The part of the Russian ambassador, Alexei D. Sadisky, was first offered to Noel Coward and then Theodore J. Flicker, who was a playwright and actor best known for improvisational comedy. They said no, so Peter Bull was cast, and he was a British actor who already had a Hollywood career going back to the 1930s.
Yeah, he was in loads of stuff. Peter Bull, The African Queen, probably his most well-known. I think he's good as the ambassador.
Yeah, he's really
Yeah,
good.
I thought he was Russian.
Yeah, I thought he was Russian, yeah.
His accent's fantastic.
Yeah.
You have no fresh fish.
Yeah.
I'll have a poached eggs.
Well, that book, Reconstructing Strangelove, it also says that Paul Newman, Orson Welles and Burt Lancaster were considered by Kubrick as cast members, although it doesn't say who they would play.
Right.
Welles is the ambassador, surely, imposing presence.
Definitely.
You can speculate whoever you want to. Oh, I'd love Paul Newman in this. Of course you would. Newman and John Wayne. Oh, this is turning out to be incredible.
Well, Slim Pickens received no award recognition for his performance as Major Kong, but with the image of him riding the bomb to destruction becoming one of cinema's most famous, he left his mark with Dr. Strangelove.
Absolutely, yeah.
Definitely did, yeah.
So that's our main cast. We've talked about Sterling Hayden and Tracy Reed in the opening, and in depth now about Peter Sellers' triple role, George C. Scott as Turgidson, and Slim Pickens as Kong. Big performances across the board.
Huge.
That's the real big board.
That's the big board, yeah.
And I'm happy to see it.
And a pretty great ensemble comedy cast.
Oh, they're all brilliant.
Yeah, one of the best, I think.
The middle.
Into the middle of Dr. Strangelove, and things are escalating rapidly. We're going to be talking about Mandrake's increasingly desperate situation with Ripper as Burleson base comes under attack. But first, it's the Russians and a pretty memorable phone call, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we're back in the War Room, and attempting to avert disaster, President Muffley calls Soviet Premier Kisov, attempting to explain that one of his generals has launched a nuclear strike. At the same time, we see the mysterious Dr. Strangelove himself make his first appearance. Westy, you're taking the call. How does it go down?
Sorry, John, I didn't hear you. You're a bit muffly there. Can you turn the music down a little bit? This is absolute fucking genius on every level. And I mean, I know for a fact that Sellers reads the first 2 or 3 lines that are actually in the script, and then he just riffs for 10 minutes, and he did that every single take. And this you can see, but it is so fresh, and it is so funny, and it is so relatable, and it's just like somebody apologising to the wife or the best friend that they've let down. I'm late for tea, I've got to sort this out. I know you're upset. Well, I'm upset. Well, we're both upset. Are you all right? Well, I'm all right. Well, yes, I know it's fine. When you can see the cogs whirring, but when he goes down a certain avenue and he keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, it's so good. It's like he's actually threatening him, being like, I'm not ringing you just to talk, just to hear you. Well, of course I want to hear you. Of course I like to talk normally, but this I can't. So many. I mean, you could just sit here and just quote the whole thing, is how good it is.
Yeah.
But it's also the direction from Kubrick here, because it's non-existent, and he puts this in a 2-shot. That is so important. Really, really important to have Peter Bull on the left-hand side of that frame. Not reacting to a thing, just holding it straight, which gives Sellers room to sprint, and he's kind of holding it. And to have that 2-shot held, I would just be on Sellers, close up, nothing else in the frame, him just delivering it, and it would not be half as funny.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work half as well, and you've got to hold that 2-shot. And what does he do from that 2-shot? He goes to a single, but he goes to Scott.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. The way he opens it as well, the way he opens the whole conversation. You know how we've always had this discussion that something might go wrong with the bomb? Well,
Bomb, Dimitri.
it's so funny. This is so fucking brilliant if you just listen to how good his delivery is and listen to where he goes with them. I don't think I'll ever get sick of watching that scene. It's all here, and it's all Sellers, and it's all magic.
Hello, Dimitri. It is just insane.
Hello, Dimitri. Dimitri.
Let me finish.
Now, Dimitri.
Just the way he says Dimitri is
Every time he says Dimitri, I laugh. Yeah.
Dimitri.
One of the most famous phone calls in movies, surely.
It's got to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
The way it gets played out so we only see or hear one side of it works really well. Muffley's like really polite and desperate not to inflame things. Where he's talking about Ripper, and he's like, he ordered this plane to attack your country.
He like gulps, doesn't he?
Yeah, he gulps.
And the way this ends as well with the whole explanation of the Doomsday Machine.
Yeah.
The annihilation of all the living humans and all the animals on the planet. He's like, yeah, right. And then there's just that hard cut. It's so good. It's just a great scene.
Sellers is just, he's incredible.
Yeah.
Pamela Carter worked in the continuity department on the film as a script supervisor, and she said the first call between Dimitri and Kissoff was scripted in full, but Sellers would usually ignore it. For each take, he did the first line as scripted and then improvised in the next 10 minutes.
I mean, Kubrick never lets anyone improvise, usually, does he?
No.
So it shows how highly he thought of Sellers.
Yeah.
So bits like, I'm fine, you're fine, everybody's fine. That's all just made up by Sellers.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Now then, Dimitri.
So then after this, we finally meet him. We finally meet the man of the title. And it's crazy when you think about it, because his character introduction is halfway through the film, and it's not a long film.
No, it's not.
And at no point you're going, who's Dr. Strangelove, by the way?
Yeah, I can't wait for this guy.
It's just so random. And I think that's tribute to the mastery of the tone that Kubrick has, because that first reveal, it should sink the film, because when he swings around in that chair, he's like a Bond villain.
Yeah, he is.
And like, who's this? He's clearly a Nazi, and no one comments on it. Everyone's like, yeah, that's just Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah.
That's what he looks like. That's him. That's fine. And he's such a visually arresting character. I mean, that haircut, he's like an early version of Barton Fink crossed with David Lynch. He's got that kind of look to him.
Yeah.
The accent is outrageous. Like when he says, giant complex of computers. Just love that. Computers. That's amazing. We can already see he's having the battle with his own hand that he can't control because he desperately wants to give the Sieg Heil.
Yeah.
And it's the same as what we've been saying in the phone conversation. It's when you cut away to Turgidson every time. He was just like, who's this guy? Like offering his gum around. Gee, I wish we had one of them Doomsday Machines. Again, he's just a child. It's all about, well, I want one because that sounds good. And it's the balance of the film in this one scene, because everything they're talking about is utterly terrifying, and it's all in the hands of the most inept and unsuitable people you could think of.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where it all starts to get really weird.
Yeah.
Like Alexei explains a doomsday device that will destroy your life on Earth. And watching it now, I think it feels kind of ahead of its time, this scene.
Mm-hmm. Massively.
The way that Alexei talks about his source for the Americans creating their own doomsday device being these, like, sketchy newspapers. It's fake news.
Yeah.
Essentially, leading to very questionable policies, which sounds pretty familiar. And I mean, there's a timeless point here made about how I think misinformation works at these really high levels of power. And that's something that probably hasn't changed since either.
Yeah.
And the lighting on the War Room set is just fantastic.
Oh, I love the lighting, yeah.
It's all backlit as well, isn't it? So it's got that interrogation kind of vibe. So you're always on that back foot. Yeah, it's really, really great.
It's fantastic.
And they say his name, he's like, Strangelove, that's not a crowd name, is it? And he actually gives his name in German. And his name in German translates to Strangelove. Which is brilliant.
And Strangelove was based on quite a few real-life characters. The political scientist Henry Kissinger was an influence, and so was Edward Teller, known as the father of the hydrogen bomb. Two American physicists, Herman Kahn and John von Neumann, have been called influences as well. But the main inspiration was Werner von Braun, the former SS officer and Nazi rocket scientist who worked with the American government after the war.
Right.
Yeah, he went on to work with NASA. He was the chief architect of Saturn V, the rocket that sent Apollo 11 to the moon.
Yes.
Right.
And to create Strangelove's voice, Sellers took inspiration from the film's special photographic effects consultant, Asher Felig. He was from the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which is now Ukraine, and had a New York Hungarian hybrid accent. Sellers recorded Felig talking and then exaggerated it.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say, surely he didn't just talk like that.
No.
Asher Felig was like a street photographer, I think. He was better known as Ouija. That was his nickname.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, apparently because he had a spooky, like, Ouija board-like ability to turn up at crime scenes before everyone else. That's where he got the nickname, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Isn't that where Jude Law's character's based on, wrote a petition?
It is similar, yeah.
Yeah.
Britain's most ridiculous law.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever mentioned Jude Law without Westy saying that.
Al, it's my favourite thing to say. And it's never, ever left in.
This time I will.
Yes.
And the one glove that Strangelove wears, that came from Sellers as well. He said that he'd seen Kubrick handling some lights on the set wearing black leather gloves and asked if he could wear one of them as the character, although some reports say it was actually Kubrick's idea.
Yeah, or Michael Jackson's, one glove for him as well.
Very similar kind of characters, aren't they? Let's be honest.
Really similar, yeah.
And Rod Vang, the mad scientist guy in Metropolis, he creates the robot Maria.
Oh, yeah.
He wears one glove as well, which I think is surely a nod.
Right. Gotta be.
And his hair is not unlike Doc Brown's, who I mentioned, so
It's not.
influencing mad scientists all over the place.
It's Luke in Return of the Jedi, based on Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Good point.
Black glove, and he's all in black.
Yeah.
Oh, we should mention Bridget Sellers as well. No relation to Peter, but she was the costume designer.
All right.
And aside from the glove, she designed Doctor Strangelove's whole look.
Yeah.
Like the suit, the sunglasses indoors, which is pretty distinctive, isn't it?
Yeah.
I absolutely love that he pulls this accent off and then said to Kubrick that he can't do Texas.
I know, yeah. So we've had the phone calls, the Russian ambassador, and Doctor Strangelove's first proper appearance. The diplomatic situation's getting more desperate by the minute. Time to check back in with Mandrake and Ripper, I think.
See what's happening over there.
Let's do it.
From the war room, we're heading back to Burleson Air Force Base, where things are a bit tense.
Yeah.
The US Army's arrived to take control of the situation and get the end code, but Ripper's men are firing on their own troops while Mandrake is trapped in Ripper's office, realising just how far gone the general really is.
Yeah.
Westy, we're in the office with the lads.
We are.
How does it play out?
Again, watching Sellers in this is such an influence on Mike Myers and everything that he's done.
Yeah.
Especially this performance here, because it's so understated and so clever and so brilliant how he just slowly realises that Ripper's lost his mind completely and everything's kicking off around them. It's all just this absolute pandemonium, but it's just the discussion here. He's like, Jack, have you heard of fluoridation? He's like, yes, I've heard of that. Do you know what it is? No, I don't.
Yeah.
That's just the mentality of them. Like, they've heard of stuff, but they don't know what it is. Like, they've heard of a nuclear bomb, but they don't know what it does or what it is. And this, again, is where the sexuality comes into it. Because I think Ripper, in that earlier scene, that cigar, just...
Massive cigar. Yeah.
And it's just very phallic, and it's that low angle. And this is just pulling the machine gun out of the golf clubs. Like, it's recreational to have a machine gun.
Yeah.
It's just taking it everywhere with him.
Yeah.
And we realise that he's launched a nuclear war on Russia because he's scared of the fluoridation in the water.
Yeah.
That's it. Which, to be fair, if this was going to happen, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at one person's mental well-being or mental health or outlook.
Potentially, yeah.
And that final line, come on, Mandrake, the redcoats are coming.
Yeah.
Fucking brilliant. Just madness. But again, so well played out by Sellers.
Yeah, and this is where we start to see what Kubrick can do with, like, tension.
Yeah.
You've got Mandrake trapped in the office with Ripper while, like, a full-scale battle's going on outside. It's a bit like a mini version of how Ripper's essentially holding the whole world hostage.
Yeah. With his madness.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, Sterling Hayden is great. All the monologues about the fluoridation and the bodily fluids, disgusting. He delivers them with such, like, conviction as well.
Yeah.
And that contrast between the chaos outside and then these, like, almost civilized conversations inside. I mean, we had conversations, but Kubrick handles all those tones really well. I think the sound design's really good as well. The gunfire and the explosions all damping through the walls.
Yeah.
I think, like, pretty much the whole film, it's darkly comic, but also I find it really unsettling and troubling. Because we're basically watching a man trying to start World War III, and he's rambling about communists putting chemicals in the water. I mean, again, I just see truth in it all the way through the film from the start.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Truth in the madness. Yeah, it's just laughing at fear. That's the whole thing. It's even more terrifying.
Yeah.
And then Ripper's forces get overrun and they're at the door. And as Westy said, there's a lot of phallic imagery from Ripper early on of that huge cigar. But here, it's just so small and he's a broken man. And it's remarkable from Sterling Hayden here because you realise he isn't evil. He's just, as we've been saying, he's mentally broken and he's had no one to help him. And Mandrake even has a smidgen of sympathy for him in this moment.
He does, yeah, absolutely.
Despite what he's done. But as throughout the film, it's the way it can flip into really dark comedy here. And it's just so much of it comes from Sellers. Like when Ripper brings up, were you tortured by the Japanese? What did they do to you? And he kind of fobs it off and then he goes... Strange thing is they make such bloody good cameras. Like, focusing on that in that moment.
Brilliant line. Yeah.
But then there's that brilliant reaction you get from Sellers when Ripper says, oh, they're going to give me a good roughing over for that coat. And you can see the lights going in Mandrake's eyes going, oh, that's the way to go. If I can cheer him up, I can keep him on side, I can get the coat, I can solve this. And it's just that very British cheeriness. I mean, Westy's quote right at the top, like, oh, I'll take your jacket, you're going for a wash and brusher, boy, what a good idea. That's what we need, Jack. Water on the back of the neck and the code.
Yeah.
But then, all for nothing, bang, Ripper takes himself out and Mandrake's back to square one. But it's just the cheeriness of Mandrake.
What if I play a guessing game with you and I'll guess what the code is? Bang!
You're saying, feed me, Jack, feed me. And I was feeding you, Jack.
I do think it's pretty shocking when Ripper kills himself. The bit where Mandrake does go to open the door and it won't budge. Awful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's quite powerful in what it's saying as well. This guy would rather die. He'd rather blow up the world than admit he was wrong.
Yeah.
And that is a totally timeless point, still to this day.
Exactly, yeah.
But I think it's around this time as well in the B-52 when they detect the missile tracking them on the radar.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you, but I want them to get shot down every time I watch it.
Oh, definitely. 100%.
And Anthony Harvey's cross-cutting between the base and the bomber, that's all really good.
Yeah.
And I think once we're left with Mandrake in the office looking through Ripper's notes and trying to crack the code, I feel like totally locked in to what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Way more than I normally would in a comedy, I think.
It's that tonal switch again, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that is the middle of Dr. Strangelove. Phone calls with Soviet premiers, doomsday machines, and a general who'd rather shoot himself than back down. The diplomatic and military situations are both in chaos, so let's talk about the people behind the scenes who had to make some sense of it all, should we?
Yeah, let's do it.
The crew.
As we've been talking about, Stanley Kubrick worked very collaboratively on Dr. Strangelove with his crew, and we're at the point now where we're going to talk about some of those people. Laurie Johnson is composed as one of them, and Gilbert Taylor as director of photography is another, but we're going to begin with the screenplay.
Yep.
We are.
So the credited screenwriters on Dr. Strangelove are Stanley Kubrick, Terry Southern and Peter George. Kubrick had story credits going back to his second feature, Killer's Kiss, and had co-written The Killing and Paths of Glory. Peter George wrote the Dr. Strangelove source novel Red Alert. This was his and fellow novelist Terry Southern's first screenplay credits.
Right.
Quite the trio, Matt. The Holy Trinity. How's their writing on Dr. Strangelove?
I mean, it's just a masterclass, isn't it, in going between drama and comedy? Because you can look at the plot, and the plot is drum tight, makes complete sense, but it's not funny in the slightest. If anything, it's horrifying. So to then add in the comic elements, and yes, a lot of that comes through the performances, but it's also in the dialogue, and it's the amount of dialogue that is funny but terrifying at the same time. You know, Mr. President, I'm not saying we wouldn't get a Hermes, but I do say no more than 10 to 20 million killed tops, depending on the breaks. Like, horribly plausible as a genuine line said by a genuine general, but really funny at the same time.
Yeah.
And then add in the names in this. I mean, General Jack Ripper, Colonel Bat Guano. Like, if anyone doesn't know, guano is another name for bird shit. You've literally got a character called Bat Shit.
Yeah.
These names shouldn't work. There should be two OTT. They should overbalance everything, but they don't. And the brilliance of the writing is the comedy, you can't really like breathe and take a step back from it because it always chokes off the comedy just when you think, oh, it's all right, this is just going to be funny from now on. The writing then goes, actually, no, this is still really terrifying and you should be scared as much as you're laughing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you make an all-time classic without having at least a very solid screenplay to base your film on.
Yeah.
And that's the case, yeah. The concept coming from Red Alert, obviously, is a very good one. Nuclear anxiety was a big thing in the early 60s, so it taps into that. I think it's plotted really well too. The story's engaging in the way that we're cut between the three narratives like we talked about. That's really well handled. But what I maybe find most impressive are the amount of themes that the film doesn't just bring up, but like addresses in quite a bit of detail.
Yeah.
First is this theme of power, or lack of it. The whole narrative is about the powerlessness of powerful people, and that contradiction comes up all the way through. The opening crawl at the start of the film tells us that the US Air Force's safeguards would prevent catastrophic nuclear events occurring, and then the whole plot proves that statement completely wrong. I wonder if that's one of the reasons Kubrick shoots in black and white as well, creating a contrast visually too.
Yeah.
And there's a sexual theme throughout that we talked about, the refueling bombers in the opening, the introduction to Turgidson with Miss Scott in a bikini and heels, and it goes further. Ripper tells us that he suspected communists had contaminated the water supply because he couldn't perform during the physical act of love.
Yeah.
Those are his words. I tend not to call it that.
No, I mean, I wouldn't.
I mean, he launches a nuclear strike on Russia because of that, so that's some serious male insecurity. And then at the end, the whole war room seems happy to accept the deaths of every living thing on Earth as soon as Strangelove proposes that every man will get 10 women each to repopulate the planet.
Yeah.
So that's sexual themes everywhere once you start looking. The idea being, I assume, that sex makes the world go round, or ends it in this case.
Yeah.
And a more obvious theme is around technology and how we're going to become the victims of it ourselves. The bomb is technology. The doomsday device is technology. And the thing which prevents them stopping the attack is a broken radio aboard the B-52. So technology could be the death of us all, it's saying. And that is definitely still relevant.
Yeah.
So exploring all these serious themes and doing it through a non-stop comedy is impressive stuff. And probably still Hollywood's gold standard in political satirical writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me that Kubrick wasn't exactly laugh-a-minute.
Probably not.
Probably not the funniest of men to just jot down a few gags, so I'm going to make a film about this. So I think it is very opinionated in its themes. It does have one side of the story and just saying how ludicrous all of this is, but I do think it's very, very important to have someone like Terry Southern there to create the satirical dialogue, to make it funny and to make it make sense. So you can see Kubrick and Peter George kind of laying down the framework, Terry Southern coming in and then just adding this little bit of a lighter touch on top of it, but keeping their opinions intact. And the whole thing about the plot is that this is not a complicated story. It's not a complicated film.
No.
It's 1, 2, 3, that's it. But this is going to happen. It is happening. It has happened.
Yeah.
And it's just everything that happens within them three. You can't even break this down into 3 acts, really. This just feels like one act, which I think is very brave to do. Everyone can walk away from Dr. Strangelove knowing exactly what they've seen and know exactly what it's about and know that it's one person's opinion, but you find it very, very hard to not agree with that opinion, and I think a lot of that is down to the writing.
Yeah, for sure.
So after Kubrick bought the rights to Red Alert, he asked Peter George if he wanted to co-write the adaptation with him, and they started developing a screenplay in 1962. That was called Edge of Doom, and like the book, it was a serious thriller about the threat of nuclear warfare.
Yeah, it had other titles as well, like On the Edge of Destruction, The Delicate Balance of Terror, Wonderful Bomb was one title.
Wow.
Wonderful bomb.
Yeah. Dr. Doomsday, or How to Start World War III Without Even Trying.
Nice.
And Dr. Strangelove's Secret Uses of Uranus.
Wow.
Which I don't even want to know about, to be honest.
Wow.
Okay. Maybe that explains the end of 2001, but we'll go into that later. Maybe.
And Kubrick later said that when he was writing the screenplay, he found he kept having to change things or dilute them because presenting them as serious was just too farcical. He thought the best thing to do was to lean into the comedy and change the tone from thriller to satire.
Yeah, the most important creative decision of the whole film, surely.
By far.
One of the most important creative decisions of Kubrick's career, possibly.
I think so, yeah. It really put him on the map.
Yeah.
But imagine, I mean, just this. It takes some vision. Imagine if Threads was funny.
Not exactly, yeah. It is. It takes real guts.
It's a real gutsy move, that. It's like, well, that's not going to work, but it really does.
Yeah. And the decision to change the tone came in late 1962, and that's when Kubrick hired Terry Southern as co-writer. Southern had a comedy novel published in 1959 called The Magic Christian, about a billionaire who used his money to play elaborate pranks on people. Peter Sellers gave the book to Kubrick as a gift, and Kubrick thought the tone similar to what he wanted for Strangelove, so brought Southern in, and he flew to London for 2 months and worked directly with Kubrick.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I saw an interview with Southern's son, Niall, and he said that Kubrick's brief to Terry was usually, what's the most outrageous thing this character can say and still be credible?
Nice.
And that rings true with what we see in the film, I think.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
And that book, The Magic Christian, that was made into a film as well in 1969, also starring Peter Sellers.
Right.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Ringo Starr, obviously.
That's why I've heard of it. I was thinking it sounded familiar, yeah. Ringo in there.
Ringo.
I'm not going to run to that one. Like,
You have to be a completist to watch that one, yeah.
So Southern coming in to rewrite the screenplay led to a fallout between Kubrick and Peter George. In 1964, Life magazine published an article about Southern where they called him Dr. Strangelove, principal author, and George hit the roof. He wrote a letter to the magazine and they published it in their edition the next month.
Yeah, so his letter said that George had written the original novel and spent 10 months on the script. And Southern, in George's words, fittingly received a screenplay credit in third place behind Mr. Kubrick and myself.
Right.
Always cause problems, these screenplay credits, don't they?
Always, yeah. Again, a massive lack of communication across the board, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And despite George's objections to the credits, there were some major changes from his book to the film. The character of Dr. Strangelove wasn't in the book at all. He was added to the film after Southern was hired.
Right.
I mean, that's a pretty big change.
Huge, yeah.
The title character.
He's earned that credit.
Exactly, yeah. In earlier versions, the character was called Von Klutz, which a little bit on the nose, maybe.
Just a bit, yeah.
Yeah. And other characters had their names changed from the book. Major Howard became Mandrake. Brigadier Quinton became Jack D. Ripper. And in the novel, the US president was unnamed, and he obviously becomes Merkin Muffley.
All ridiculous names in the film.
All ridiculous. Yeah.
Ludicrous. Yeah.
Mandrake's also the name of one of the Defenders of the Earth. Remember that?
It is. I remember that.
Defenders.
The magician, wasn't he?
Yeah. Mandrake. I always think of that at some point when I see this film.
Do you ever say Defenders of the Earth without saying Defenders straight after it?
Defenders.
So of the Earth, Defenders. And Kubrick took some elements from the script from real life. The idea of a doomsday machine had been created by an American physicist called Herman Kahn. Kubrick spoke to him and asked him how he'd build one. Kahn gave him the exact specifications he would use, and that's what's in the film. Really dangerous, that.
Yeah, don't tell that to Kubrick, of all people.
Yeah.
Because he will build one.
Yeah, these people were mad.
Yeah.
I've got a good idea. If anyone attacks us, we'll just destroy the whole world. Sound good?
Yep. Why not? Yeah.
But this came out around the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis as well, 1962. That was obviously a big influence on the film.
Yeah, definitely.
And General Ripper's theory about fluoridation was based on real life as well. In the 1950s and 60s, there was a political organisation in the US called the John Birch Society, and they put out a conspiracy theory about fluoride in the water being a communist plot to weaken US children. And as a result, some US states refused to adopt fluoridisation of water.
Ludicrous. They're still around today, the John Birch Society.
Of course it is.
Far-right extremists, apparently. So that's not a new thing either.
No.
Right.
Great.
Before we move on from the writing, we have yet another ATRM Patron question. It's on the screenplay, and Lou Pellegrino is here to ask it.
Hello, Lou.
Hello, Lou.
So Lou asks, Dr. Strangelove is such a brilliant satire of the Cold War arms race. What geopolitical topics today are most ripe for Strangelove-esque satires? Why these topics? And who would you choose to direct the films?
Right.
A lot to unpack there, Matt.
Wow. Isn't it just...
Come on, Matt. It's not like you to get geopolitical.
I know. Love a bit of geopolitics, me. No, it's a great question, but the problem is, I think we're living in an age that is beyond satire now. Like, how do you satirise
Possibly.
Trump and everything he's doing?
He's doing fine himself.
Exactly. Like, you could satirise George W. Bush because he was a buffoon. So they are the targets. I don't know if you could, but who would I like to see try? I mean, the obvious answer is Armando Iannucci. But the thing is, if you ever see an interview with him, he gets asked all the time, would you ever bring back the thick of it? And he always says, I can't. Politics is beyond satire now. I can't satirise these people.
Wow.
I think that's the issue. I think other than him, I mean, the Coens spring to mind because they've always had a very straight-faced approach to comedy. And actually, I think Burn After Eden is a really underrated satire of government ineptitude and red tape and paranoia. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you can satirise anything these days, but that's who I'd like to see try.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably no shortage of material in terms of subjects for satire. AI in the tech industry, probably ripe for the Kubrick treatment.
Oh, I'd have loved that, yeah.
Like billionaire tech bros with what seems like god complexes, governments that don't seem to understand the technology they're trying to regulate,
Yeah.
and stakes that I think we might not grasp until it's too late.
Yeah.
Well, the original script that Kubrick wrote for AI might have had some satire in it until Spielberg got a hold of it.
I wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Climate change would be another easy target, I think. Social media, meddling with elections, like democracy being undermined by dudes making memes. It's unbelievable. I think Kubrick would love to get into all that. As for director, yeah, you're right, Matt. Armando Iannucci seems a safe choice. Like The Death of Stalin proved he can do that.
Yeah.
Political satire. But I'd go for Bong Joon-ho.
Oh, nice.
Parasite makes some satirical points about class and status.
Does, yes.
And I think he's got the Kubrick madness as well, so he'd be great.
Yeah, I'm not a million miles away from you, actually, John, to be fair. So I haven't got Iannucci in there, but there is a few that I think could be satirised just so that people could understand what they're about a little bit more. I mean, you could have like the US versus China, you know, the strategic competition, AI and tech, as you've spoke about, trade and tariffs. I think if you get someone like Fincher involved in that.
Lovely.
Societal polarization, you know, streets versus the elites, all of that kind of bringing all that together. And I think if you get someone like Ken Loach addressing that to that kind of scale, would be really interesting. And he'd really show people, you know, what was really going on there with the top 1%. And I think it would open a lot of eyes, as he tries to do. But give that boy more money and give him a platform, please.
Yeah.
And the big one for me is this question of identity. Who are we? You've got your online identity. There's a lot of things going on with gender, with your sexual orientation. And I think someone like Nicholas Winding Refn getting a hold of that and making it really kind of neon and gritty, I think because he would really understand from that point of view what it means.
Yeah, a few great ones there, Westy.
Yeah, nice.
Well, for their work writing Dr. Strangelove, Stanley Kubrick, Peter George and Terry Southern were nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay at the Oscars. They lost out to Edward Arnold for Beckett, historical drama.
Right, yes.
Okay.
No Oscar then, but as far as we're concerned, some brilliant satirical writing on Dr. Strangelove that makes some timeless points and still holds up to the next century.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the very best, very understated, but very important.
From the writing, we're moving on to the music and the composer on Dr. Strangelove in Laurie Johnson. A Brit, this was his 12th feature. Before this, he'd had collaborations with a couple of British directors at the time in J. Lee Thompson and Gilbert Gunn, the most famous film he worked on being the crime drama Tiger Bay in 1959.
Right.
A composer with creds, Matt. How was the music on Dr. Strangelove?
I think it's really, really clever.
Yeah.
Because it's minimal, but when it's there, you really notice it because it's making a point. And it's either adding to the comic nature of the film or it's pulling it back from going too far. So you've got Try a Little Tenderness over the sod of the plains we feel, which gives it that romantic edge which Kubrick is aiming for.
Yeah.
We'll Meet Again at the End of the Planet is darkly, darkly funny and ironic.
Yeah.
But then the other use of it is when we keep cutting back to the B-52 and it's got the military drum beat underneath it when Johnny Comes Marching Home, that tune.
Yeah.
And that completely like punctures the comedy and replaces it with tension. Yes, we're being laughing, but these guys are deadly serious and they're going to drop an atomic bomb and start World War III. And that's what that music tells you. So it's minimal. Like I say, there's not loads of it, but that's because Kubrick just wants it for very, very specific reasons.
Yeah, he does. I think the music's really interesting, or rather its use is, because there's actually very little of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Once we get past the opening credits, the film is mostly silent in terms of music. There's no score underneath the dialogue scenes in the war room or in Ripper's office. That's obviously a deliberate choice.
Yeah.
It makes those places feel more real, more like a documentary almost. That's the intention, I think. But it also does mean, like you're saying, Matt, that when the music comes in, it's more noticeable.
Yeah.
When Johnny Comes Marching Home, that arrangement in the score, that scores almost all the B-52 sequences, and that's such a specific choice. Gives those scenes this, like, heroic, patriotic quality, but I think it's done ironically as well.
It definitely is, yeah.
And we'll obviously get the same at the end with Vera Lynn, which we'll talk about. So I think Johnson's work here is mostly about arrangement and placement rather than original compositions.
It is.
And he does that really well. That restraint gives Kubrick what he wants, I think. This idea of, like, less is more. I think the themes and the narrative are the most important things to Kubrick, and the way the music's handled is there just to back that up.
Yeah, it's very much for the audience, I think, the music in this. This is the way you think and this is the way you're supposed to think. The whole When Johnny Comes Marching Home for the B-52s is like it almost drowns out their sense of intelligence. They can't think of anything else but this beat. That's what they're marching to and they're not going to stop.
Yeah.
Again, reminds me of like the Mickey Mouse theme tune at the end of Full Metal Jacket.
That's awesome, that, yeah.
He's always got these needle drops at the end of his films, these real moments where he adds these great, relevant tunes that you just think that shouldn't really fit, but it really does, and it's really sparing. He doesn't reinforce any scenes or any character or any motivation or any emotion, but again, to level it like a documentary. It almost bookends. You've got a song at the start, then a song at the end, and something in the middle just to kind of set the tone. It's a real lesson in restraint and necessity, the music in this film.
It absolutely is, yeah.
And Laurie Johnson was a classically trained English composer who'd studied at the Royal College of Music under famous composers like Ralph Vaughan Williams and Herbert Howells. And by 1964, he'd already conducted Bernard Herrmann's scores for Hitchcock's Vertigo, North by Northwest and Psycho, and won an Ivor Novello Award in 1959 for the stage musical Look Up Your Daughters, and had scored British films like Tiger Bay. And he was working in London at the time Kubrick was prepping Dr. Strangelove, which is how Kubrick came across him.
He also wrote the theme music to some classic British TV, like This Is Your Life.
All right.
And The Avengers. Great.
Oh, amazing.
This Is Your Life. That music always used to freak me out.
Is it massive?
So bombastic.
Boom, dun, dun, dun. This is your life, you piece of shit. What?
And interestingly, one of the J. Lee Thompson films he'd scored had been I Aim at the Stars in 1960.
Right.
That was a biopic based on Werner von Braun, the German rocket designer we talked about.
Ah, right.
I wonder if that played a part in Kubrick hiring him.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Possibly.
And like I said earlier about the book ending and then putting one in the middle, I mean, Johnson creates three key pieces in here for the three acts of the film or the three motivations of the film. So you've got the instrumental arrangement of Try a Little Tenderness for the opening, the bomb run, which we get various arrangements of the American Civil War song When Johnny Comes Marching Home, as we've talked about, which plays during the B-52 sequences and adds a real seriousness to that. And he did an arrangement of Vera Lynn's We'll Meet Again, which plays over the closing nuclear explosion montage, which I think is very, very clever, because that was a real message of hope in World War II.
Yeah.
They would play that as the left to families, like, we'll meet again, it's going to be okay. This playing over the end of it, it's like, no, we won't.
Yeah, that's the whole point, I think, yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
But the use of When Johnny Comes Marching Home, that's really interesting, I think. That was written in 1863 during the American Civil War, like you said, as a song about a war hero. But then it was rewritten in 1867 as Johnny I Hardly Knew Ye, and then it became a popular anti-war song.
Right.
I think that's why Kubrick used it, creating this contrast of kind of pro-war and anti-war at the same time, which is just brilliant.
Yeah, really, really good.
And at the end of the recording sessions, Kubrick told Johnson it was the best soundtrack to any of his films. And Johnson later said Kubrick was one of the 3 greatest talents in the entertainment industry he'd worked with, alongside Peter Sellers and Bernard Herrmann.
That's a trio. But my favourite soundtrack, there's hardly any music, none of it's new, and I chose all the tracks. Of course, he loved it.
Well done, Laurie. Well done.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Laurie Johnson wasn't nominated for any major awards for his work on Dr. Strangelove, but that praise from Kubrick is big. And for us, a good example of restraint and thematic music in a film.
Yeah, very, very much.
It's not what you use, it's how you use it and where it is.
Now we're getting into the visuals, and the director of photography on Dr. Strangelove was Gilbert Taylor.
Yep.
By this point, he was a highly regarded Hollywood DP with over 30 films under his belt, including 7 Days to Noon, High Treason, and A Woman in a Dressing Gown.
Right.
An experienced head here then, Westy.
Yeah.
How does Dr. Strangelove look?
I'm absolutely shocked that you didn't put A Hard Day's Night in there.
Was that before? I thought it was after this.
Just before, I think they came out at the same time. So yeah, he knows what he's doing. Incredible cinematographer, because he's standing up to Kubrick, and he does a lot. And he has to, because Kubrick's coming in with a lot of ideas. He's trying to tell Taylor what to do and how to do his job, and he knows what he's doing at this point. I mean, the lighting in the war room, the source lighting in that is incredible.
Yeah.
So well done. The lighting, even in Ripper's office, is fantastic. When they shoot the windows out and it goes completely black, they just leave it the way it is. The source lighting is just incredibly well done.
Yeah.
The black and white in this looks absolutely fantastic. There's a really lovely tone all the way through. And the storming of the base is absolutely amazing. It's some of the best combat footage that you'll see.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people know that this was actually Gilbert Taylor and Stanley Kubrick in army fatigues with an Ariflex each. And they said, you go with that squad, I'm going with this one, and we're just going to shoot the footage.
Wow.
As we see it, as it goes. And that was just them two, just in the middle. Said Stanley was a good cameraman, I was a good cameraman, so we just went in there, the two of them. So it's them two in there, just
Lovely.
basically battling to get the best shots they can. Now, watch Saving Private Ryan. It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
There's some homages to that. There's a silhouetted machine gun from the German position shooting down on the boats. That, again, is completely ripped from this. I think Spielberg's watched this and went, oh, people don't really notice that bit in Strangelove.
Yeah.
And when Gilbert Taylor was first approached to be DP on it, he had to do all the flying sequences. So everything that you see on the open and everything you see, the B-52, that was all shot over Greenland, and that was all shot like before production. And Kubrick was like, he hated to fly, so he wouldn't do it. And there was one moment where Taylor's in one of the B-52s, so he's in one of the planes, bolting all of the cameras to the sides to get everything that he wanted. And he heard this horrible screech from the back, and he said it was the most horrific thing he'd heard, because they went, Stanley's here! And Kubrick actually got on the plane.
Like Darth Vader coming in.
Yeah, exactly. So it's Kubrick's, he turns around, he said, oh no, and Kubrick's talking to the crew going, these cameras are bolted down too tight. Like you wanted a little bit of shake in the camera, and Gilbert Taylor was like, that's ridiculous. I want these super steady. I want them bolted down, really strong. And Kubrick was going through each crew member saying, I want this, I want this, I want this. So Taylor went up to the pilot and just went, can you turn one of the engines on? So he turned the engine on, and Kubrick bolted out the back of the plane, thinking it was going to take off. So he legged it, and then Taylor said he went around every position and tightened all of the cameras back up, because that's how he wanted it done. But that's the kind of DP he was. He knew what he wanted, and he got them shots. And I think Kubrick would have said, yeah, you know what, he was absolutely right to do that. Not that he ever did, but you need someone like that in a film like this to take it to the next level. And I don't think Kubrick would admit it, but I think he learned a lot from Gilbert Taylor in this film. It's so beautifully shot, it's so elegantly shot, and it really adds to the whole piece.
Yeah, I mean, he's been around a while, Gilbert Taylor, already, but a bit of a fresh challenge even for him, I think, with the ramped-up political satire.
Yeah.
But I think he rises to it, no problem. I mean, this is the mid-60s, obviously, so the decision to shoot in black and white is a very deliberate one. And I think they maybe do it for a few reasons. It gives the film that documentary or newsreel kind of look that makes the events feel like they could actually happen. I think there's a film noir feel at times as well.
Definitely.
That shot from below close-up of Sterling Hayden in Ripper's office when he's smoking the cigar near the start. Really dramatic. He looks like a dictator or something.
Yeah.
And more practically, shooting in black and white, I guess, lowers costs, which helps when your cast is charging 3 for the price of 6.
Exactly, yeah. And matches the footage they got of the refueling at the start.
Yes.
Because that would have been in black and white as well.
Exactly, yeah. And what's impressive, I think, is getting depth. Shooting in black and white sometimes seems to be a challenge for DPs, and they get lots of depth here, especially in the war room. It seems to go on and up for miles.
Yeah.
The famous shot of Dr. Strangelove coming out the shadows is a good example. He emerges from darkness. Not just a great shot, but great storytelling, because it gives us his backstory kind of visually as well.
Yeah.
And Taylor's lighting and his shooting creative choices adds loads to that, of course.
I mean, I just want to go back to what I said in my first scene. It's the use of space that Kubrick gets him to use here, because you think of that vast size of the war room, and he's very selective of when he does go into a close-up or a two-shot here, and I think that's so deliberate, because it's like The Shining. Like, how many times in that film do you see the Torrances just framed on that vast, empty hotel because anything could then jump into frame and get them?
Yeah.
And here, I think he's constantly surrounding characters with empty space because it makes them look insignificant, because we are, in this situation, men are basically like tiny insects here scrabbling around, trying to save themselves, but in the face of the bomb and insanity, we are powerless. And that's what I think he's doing here, and he's contrasting that with how cramped Kong's plane is, because they are the only people in control of their situation in the film, and it's right in front of them. So it's all about how Kubrick is putting across his main theme here with the use of the DP, which I think is really, really effective.
Yeah, it seems like there's a real lack of coverage on this.
It feels like that, yeah. It does, definitely.
Yeah.
By 1963, when Dr. Strangelove began production, Taylor was known as a master of documentary-style black and white cinematography. He'd shot the Bolton brothers' political thriller 7 Days to Noon in 1950 and pioneered the use of bounced and reflected light to create natural imagery. He'd also shot the special effects cinematography on the Dam Busters, where he had to work with a lot of airplane-based effects, and I think you can see a lot of that in this.
Definitely a pretty good fit here then. He shot Repulsion as well. Roman Polanski film in 1965.
Okay.
One of the execs on that, Michael Klinger, he described Taylor as one of the most expensive cameramen in the business.
Of course.
Yeah. Kubrick called him 1 for the price of 6. He didn't really.
1 for the price of 10.
And Taylor said one of the reasons Kubrick hired him was that Kubrick didn't like flying, so he needed someone who could shoot a lot of the aerial footage over the Arctic for the B-52 sequences. Taylor had a lot of experience with that on films, as we've been saying, like the Dam Busters. So while Kubrick was in pre-production, Taylor was in a B-17 flying fortress over Iceland, Greenland and northern Canada, shooting all the aerial footage we see of the B-52, and he ended up covering about 28,000 miles.
Wow.
Yeah. And then they shot the model of the B-52 on top of that footage using rear projection. Those aerial shots, though, there's loads of them. I think they look really good. I like them a lot.
Yeah, they look great. I mean, the B-52 stuff's a bit questionable.
It is, but I still quite like it, though.
I still quite like it. I think Tarantino did that on Kill Bill, you know, when the plane's coming in.
Right, yeah.
It's got a similar kind of vibe to it, yeah. Gilbert Taylor's wife, Dee Vaughan, said that while they were shooting the aerial footage over Greenland, Taylor and his camera crew accidentally filmed a secret US military base.
Wow.
2 military planes appeared alongside them and forced them down. They weren't released until the military was convinced that they weren't Soviet spies. A lot going hand in hand here, isn't it?
Yeah. That must be a tense few hours. That could have been in the film, that.
It could have been, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And apparently filming in the Arctic, the inside of the plane was so cold that the walls would burn your fingers to touch them.
Like the DeLorean.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Come with the ice. And one time they opened the cameras and the film had all just turned to dust. It was that cold.
Nightmare.
And Taylor also said there was some tension between him and Kubrick because Kubrick was so controlling. Kubrick would shoot Polaroid images of setups to show Taylor how he wanted it to look. And Taylor said he'd ask, "What do you think?" I'd say, "It's dreadful." And that's how we got on. I sometimes felt as if his hand was the brush and I was the paint coming off it.
Oh, that's a great quote.
Yeah, it is really good. Yeah. Gilbert Taylor wasn't nominated for any major awards for his work on Dr. Strangelove, but his cinematography did help define the look of Cold War cinema.
Yeah.
And of course, he went on to be DP on a little old film called Star Wars. He didn't get on with George Lucas either. No planes at Elstree. There's your problem.
Yeah, exactly.
But Gilbert Taylor and Dr. Strangelove, I think we agree, some great black and white photography that handles the absurd and the pretty terrifying equally well.
Fantastic stuff.
It's a beautiful thing to look at, but a harrowing thing to experience.
Yep.
So Kubrick, the master puppeteer, was pulling the strings as always, but he had some great people working with him in his crew, and in Terry Southern and Peter George as co-writers, Laurie Johnson as composer, and Gilbert Taylor as DP, some outstanding work all across the crew.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yep.
The end.
It's time for the final act of Dr. Strangelove, and everything's at breaking point. We're going to be talking about the climax, where the war room scrambles to prevent catastrophe, and we see the most iconic bomb drop in cinema. But first, Mandrake's trying to save the world with a phone call.
He is.
He is a defender of the Earth. So, with General Ripper dead and the recall code discovered, Mandrake needs to call the war room. Enter Colonel Bat Guano, played by Keenan Wynn. Meanwhile, the B-52 crew face their own crisis. They're running out of fuel and need to change their target to complete the mission.
Yep.
Matt, the fuse is burning. How's it all going for you?
I mean, it's going well for Mandrake because he's, as I've been saying, the most capable person in the entire film, and he's made a breakthrough. He's got the code. He can save the day. He just has to get through to the president. But then Major Bat Guano turns up, and it's the point that Kubrick is making again and again and again. This situation is bad enough as it is, and it's made worse because the worst people are in charge of dealing with it. And it's that blind military bureaucracy again in this guy. The confrontation that these two have, and Guano just comes out with, I think you're some kind of deviated prevert. Like,
Yeah.
what on earth are you talking about? What is this madness? And even when Mandrake finally convinces him, you know what, I'm in charge after Ripper's death. The president will want to talk to me. He doesn't have the right change for the phone call. He can't make it a collect call. Operator, it's station to station. Can I make it a trunk call? Oh, no, still don't have enough change.
Yeah.
It's just the amount of infuriating roadblocks to get anything done here. It's like, mankind, we are our own worst enemies. For the sake of a few cents worth of change, he can't get through to the president. And even suggesting to Guano, shoot the lock off the Coke machine to get some change, like his immediate reaction, that's private property.
Yeah.
No one apart from Mandrake has any sense of what's actually at stake here. You just want to reach through the screen and strangle these people.
Yeah.
And obviously the iconic line, you're going to have to answer to the Coca-Cola company.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a Coca-Cola company to answer to unless you
Yeah.
help Mandrake at this point. It's an infuriating scene, but again, it's just the madness of war.
Yeah, for sure. I think the whole Mandrake and Guano sequence, it's about probably as absurdist as the film goes, which is saying something.
Yeah.
But what works is how it reflects all that, like, political madness that we've seen, where the systems designed to protect us are the things that end up destroying us. Mandrake's got the code, he knows how to stop everything, but he can't get through because he doesn't have any spare change. So that theme of technology failing humanity again. And I think Sellers is still great. I like it when Mandrake's telling Guano to shoot the Coke machine, and he's like, shoot it with a gun, that's what the bullets are for, you twit. Twit.
Yeah. And actually destroying technology to get the means to get communications within human beings, I think is really important. So you have to destroy it to get that back.
Yeah.
And Keenan Wynn was a well-known character actor at the time he was cast. He'd started on Broadway in the 30s before moving to Hollywood, and before Dr. Strangelove had been in Annie Get Your Gun, Royal Wedding, Touch of Evil, and The Absent-Minded Professor, and he was later in Once Upon a Time in the West a few years after this.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Kubrick presumably cast him because he wanted someone who could play the role really straight, a bit like with Sterling Hayden, I guess.
Yeah, so straight after that, we're back in the B-52. We're running out of fuel. We need to drop the bomb on something. We're not just going to drop this in the water. We've come too far to throw this in the drink. And they can't get to the primary. And there's elements here where there's humanity involved. There is a moral compass that is available if you want to ditch it, if you want to stop, if you want to turn around, if you want to just try and think about the crew and think about, nope, we need to get this done. And I think it's just so well played because they're like looking for a target, they're looking for a justification, they're looking for somewhere to drop this bomb, and they're like, oh, well, we can't get to that one, so what's next?
Yeah.
It's kind of like when it's another food analogy, I'm really sorry.
Do it.
If you're going to get a takeaway and that one's shut, and you're like, oh, well, which one, what's next to it? I fancy a pizza, but I don't want a Domino's, I don't want to go there. And it feels like they're kind of flicking through the yellow pages, like looking what they can drop the bomb on. Oh, that one will do. It's not important. What's important is that they drop this bomb on something, is that they achieve their orders, their commands. It's a terrifying sequence, but one that you think, well, this is now inevitable.
Yeah.
How is this going to play out?
Well, yeah, the recall code's gone out, but Kong's B-52's got a damaged radio, so they never got the message, and now they're leaking fuel.
Yeah.
So there's some dramatic irony here. There's now 2 reasons they should turn back, and they still don't.
Mm-hmm.
And Kong's decision to change the target to a closer location, that's got meaning, I think. He's doing his job and following orders, but that's kind of the problem. When everyone just blindly follows orders, no one stops to question whether the orders should be followed at all. And in this case, they definitely shouldn't. Mm-hmm. And I think considering it's been a farcical comedy a lot, the tension aboard the plane feels pretty nerve-wracking.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Kubrick manages to shift us through all these tones, like, effortlessly, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
This whole sequence is just like Memphis Belle.
Yeah.
Let's make that into a 2-hour film.
Exactly.
So as I've been saying, the B-52's first target is a ballistic missile complex at Laputa, which is a fictional place. The name Laputa comes from Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels, where it's a giant floating island full of scientists and intellectuals who have power over ordinary people, but are detached from reality. The target then changes to Kotlos, another fictional Russian place.
Yeah, so Laputa was deliberately named.
Yeah.
And Laputa also means prostitute in Spanish, apparently, so another sexual reference, maybe?
Okay, yeah, maybe.
So that was the original primary,
Laputa was, yeah.
right? So Jack D. Ripper wanted to kill a prostitute.
Yeah. Wow.
Lovely.
Brilliant.
There you go.
Very nice. Finding meanings no one else is there, Westy.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, brilliant. So the recall code's out, but one plane remains, and Major Kong is determined to see his mission through. Time for the climax, I think.
Yep.
Okay.
The finale of Dr. Strangelove delivers one of cinema's most famous images. Mechanical failures aboard the B-52 result in Kong manually releasing the bomb and riding it to Earth like a rodeo bull. Mm-hmm. Back in the war room, Dr. Strangelove takes centre stage with his surreal vision for humanity's survival.
Yeah.
So how does the climax play out, Westy?
It plays out in a very tense sequence, this.
Yeah.
I think it's really well done. And Kong disappears. The technology's failing them, which should be a red flag of like, well, let's just not bother then. Let's just leave it, because how many signs do we need that this is going wrong? But this is a really believable sequence. It really does ride through, and the tension's really well done. And again, I find this to be a really sad scene.
Yeah.
Because they've got a chance here to stop it all from happening. And there's this constant malfunction from technology until there's a human interaction. So it is hand in hand. So we're not going to kill ourselves unless we actually push the button, which I think is what it's trying to say.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all there to be read in that way. And it's Kubrick just saying, look, just stop. It's not a heroic ending. It's not happy in any stretch of the imagination. It's an absolute tragedy, and it's really well played out because it's very tense, very believable, very preventable, and really sad.
I agree. I mean, Kong going to drop the bomb with everything going wrong. Again, it's like really tense, more than you'd probably expect after everything that we've watched so far. I think you kind of forget that you're watching a comedy at certain points, and this is one of them.
Definitely.
But watching this for the first time, people are probably waiting for something to happen to stop the bomb being dropped. I think I probably was, because that's what normally happens.
Yeah.
Kubrick does the opposite, obviously, and the moment the bomb goes, I think it's so well put together.
It is.
As Kong goes to fix the release mechanism, we're listening to When Johnny Comes Marching Home, as we have all the way through, but then the music cuts out completely as the bomb drops.
Yeah, it stops.
And that, like, 10 seconds or so, as we approach the ground, that's so, like, eerie and weird.
It is, yeah.
Kong, like, whooping and waving his hat. It's another contrast of that humour and horror that Kubrick's been kind of doing all the way through.
Yeah.
And that sexual theme we've had all the way through. I think Kubrick's had that in there to lead up to this shot, because Kong's on this, like, phallic-shaped bomb and rides it to what's kind of like a nuclear orgasm,
Yeah.
which is like this huge idea, still one of Kubrick's most famous images. And I agree, Westy. I'm not sure the ending is meant as being 100% pessimistic, because Kong wants to ride the bomb. He's in control of the situation. So the message I take is similar to you. We can prevent this if we want to.
Yeah.
But do we want to? I think that's the question that Kubrick's asking.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the fact that this is such a reversal of what this scene should be, because in any other film, this is a thriller, and the point is you're thinking, Kong needs to fix this problem, otherwise they're not going to be able to drop the bomb, they're not going to be able to destroy the enemy, and we are not going to win. But he's thinking, I want him to fail, because if he succeeds, he's dropping the bomb, and we don't want that here.
Yeah.
And by the time you get to this point, Kubrick knows he can let the more surreal elements play out, so that image of Kong riding that bomb down all the way, as you said, John, another example of the phallic imagery, just yee-hawing away to his doom. It's an incredible image.
It really is.
The bombing sequence was overseen by Wally Vivers, who had been the head of Shepperton Studios' special effects department since 1952 and was an expert in matte paint and backgrounds. Slim Pickens was filmed on the bomb against a blue screen, and a photograph that Gilbert Taylor's team had taken on the B-17 was composited to the background.
Yeah, so when they filmed it, the camera was slowly moved away from Pickens and the bomb, and then they manipulated the background image to get bigger and bigger, so it looks like Kong's moving away from us and towards the ground.
Right.
I mean, I'm not sure you can say it looks real, even by 60s standards, but the image is so incredible. I don't think we care, do we?
No.
I think you're seeing more what's in Kong's mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't see him on top of that. I see him falling out of there with it, but I don't see him riding it down in a heroic way.
Yeah.
I think that's what he wants to happen. I think he just falls out.
Yeah.
And shooting this scene in the bomb bay was one of the production's biggest technical challenges. The set was designed by Ken Adam, and after it was built, Kubrick told me he wanted it to have working bomb doors so he could film the bomb drop for real, obviously. Adam said these modifications would take weeks, but Wally Vivers came up with the answer. Pickens was again shot against a blue screen, and the bomb bay background is a photograph. Vivers cut out the bomb doors, so when the bomb drops, it looks like it's fallen out of the plane.
Yeah, when you know that, you can kind of tell, because it's a little bit uncanny valley, doesn't look quite right.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, I'm not bothered.
Yeah, I don't care at this point.
And classic Kubrick, huge last-minute change requests driving everyone mad.
Yeah.
Change it all.
And more classic Kubrick, Slim Pickens said they did over 100 takes of the bomb fall scene. Obviously.
100 takes. How is it different?
I know, yeah.
So we'll see that the two bombs in the bay have names written on them. Hi there and Dear John. This was a practice that came from World War II bombers. In the book, though, the second bomb isn't called Dear John, it's called Lolita.
How weird's that?
Really weird.
Really weird, yeah.
I think Dear John was the name of a horse Slim Pickens used to own. That's where that came from.
Right, okay.
But a bigger change to the book is that in the book, the bomb isn't released, but the president thinks it is, so he offers Atlantic City to the Russians, saying they can destroy it as revenge.
Right.
And they're about to, when it's revealed the nuke on Russia never happened, so it stopped, like, in the nick of time.
Right.
That's, like, the kind of more typical Hollywood ending I'm talking about.
Very much. Yeah,
That's what I would expect, yeah.
Yeah.
Springsteen on the soundtrack. Will they blow up the chicken man?
And now we're back in the war room for how on earth are they going to come back from this? And I think this is one of the most satirical points. Like, no one can repress their true nature here. I mean, particularly Strangelove and Sellers, the physical performance here, fighting his own arm, biting his knuckle because he's so desperate to just give the Sieg Heil. And he's talking about his plan and what we're going to do. It would not be difficult, mein Führer. I'm sorry, Mr. President.
Yeah.
He's just so unable to suppress his true nature. You know, it's like when he's talking about the animals will be bred and slaughtered. Like, really putting the emphasis on that. But it's the same with Turgidson as well. Like, everyone's talking about what they'll need to do to survive.
Yeah.
But because he can't let go of his constant worldview that it's us against them, it's us against the Russians. And he's so fixated on this idea of mine shafts, in the idea that the Russians might try to take over theirs. Yeah. Mr. President, we must not allow a mine shaft gap. Yeah. And you're just thinking, what are you going on about? It's nuclear annihilation. Why are you raging about mine shafts? And, you know, if these are the best mines of mankind left, maybe we don't deserve to survive at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's been wanting to go for the last hour and a half, and this is where Sellers lets loose. He's off the chain.
Definitely, yeah.
And Strangelove's plan for humanity, to survive in mine shafts, 10 women to every man, selected for their sexual characteristics, as he puts it, so just the hot ones, basically.
Yeah.
It's insane. And also something I think could definitely happen.
Yeah.
And the Nazi coming back out of Strangelove in the salute and stuff like that, I think the point surely is that fascist thinking isn't totally dead. It's kind of been rebranded as the Cold War.
Yeah.
And Mein Führer, I can walk is ridiculous. But as the final line, it feels like a perfect like full stop for the film. And I think Sellers should get the final line as well.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It really hits home to me is that fascism isn't gone. It isn't dead. It's now reborn.
Yeah.
Because all of the ideas that he wants to do, he wants to create the Aryan race, but underground. He wants to create the perfect race.
Yeah.
And restyle everything. It was Hitler's dream, but he's just going to have to do it underground now and rebuild the world in his vision, which is why he stands up and says, I can walk. Fascism's back. Fascism's alive. It exists.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're talking about Sellers improvising a lot of his lines, obviously, and a lot of his Strangelove's final monologue came from him. The Nazi salute was his idea, and Mein Führer, I can walk, as we've mentioned, was his too. Kubrick said because Sellers told him he couldn't promise to do the same take twice. They had 6 cameras set up. We said it was 1 camera, but they had 6 cameras set up to capture everything from every angle.
Turn the cameras on, just let him go, surely, if he wanted to.
go.
Yeah. Incredible ad-libbing.
Yeah.
But there's quite a lot of cuts in that whole sequence, if you notice, like close-ups to cutaways and stuff.
Yeah.
Anthony Harvey said that was because there was a lot of footage where you could see the cast in the background trying not to laugh.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
You had to cut around it, yeah.
Yeah.
That must have been the only time, but that's fine.
And the war room, you might have noticed, has a table of food because Kubrick originally planned to end the film with a custard pie fight between the Russians and the Americans. They filmed it and it was going to be 11 minutes long, but Kubrick cut it. He later said it was because he thought it was too farcical compared to the rest of the film.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked.
No.
Yeah. Terry Southern said that Kubrick called the cut of that scene a disaster of Homeric proportions. Like a Trojan horse of a disaster.
Wow.
The scene has been screened before, and how it plays out is that Turgidson notices Alexei taking pictures of the big board, with a spy camera. Turgidson tackles him, and Alexei throws a pie at him. Turgidson ducks, and it hits Muffley right in the face. He falls into Turgidson's arms, and a huge food fight breaks out.
Right.
Yeah, and it played out in fast motion as well, like Benny Hill or something.
Oh, wow.
Oh, did it?
Yakety sax over the top of it.
Exactly, yeah.
That sounds dreadful.
But apparently George C. Scott said that the pie fight wasn't filmed by Kubrick. It was done by the assistant director, Eric Rattray. Mm-hmm. And Scott said, the scene was terrific. That's why Stanley cut it, because the son of a bitch didn't direct it.
Beats him at chess a couple of times. That's his son of a bitch.
The ending that we do get, though, is pretty famous as well. Mm-hmm. Kubrick leads us out with a montage of nuclear explosions as the Doomsday Machine responds to the attack, presumably leading to world annihilation.
Yeah.
All set to Vera Lynn's wartime classic, We'll Meet Again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A good way to end?
I mean, a bleak way to end.
Just a bit.
I mean, he doesn't let you off the hook, does he, Kubrick? I mean, this is him saying, this is how terrifying these explosions are. And by the way, we've already been doing them over and over and over again.
I know, yeah.
The genie's out of the bottle and it's not going back in. You know, humanity pretty much completely wiped out. So how do you make that funny? I mean, stick will meet again over the top of it. I mean, obviously, that might play slightly differently with overseas audiences because obviously for us, it's the ultimate kind of bittersweet World War II song that gave everyone a bit of hope.
Yeah.
It's a scary time, but you'll see your loved ones again.
Yeah.
Except here, no hope whatsoever. This is like the ultimate example of how to use the song ironically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Spike Milligan, the Goon Show writer, was close friends with Peter Sellers. He visited the set one day, and apparently it was his idea to use Vera Lynn's We'll Meet Again as the song that plays over the explosion montage. The song was first recorded in 1939, just after Britain declared war on Germany, and it became one of the most iconic World War II songs. The version in the film, though, is a recording Lynn did in 1953. It has more instrumentation and a bigger chorus.
Right.
Yes, the Force's sweetheart, she was known as during the war.
Yeah,
she was.
And that song, I think you mentioned it before, Westy, it stood for like reunion and better days coming ahead.
Yeah.
So Kubrick kind of takes that feeling, that sentiment, and literally just blows it up. It's just absolute genius way to finish a film.
So the music came from Milligan, but Kubrick wanted to use real shots of nuclear explosions, and it was made up of real US nuclear test footage, mainly from the late 40s and 50s Pacific and desert tests that the government had released as test material.
Right.
So we see the Trinity test from New Mexico in 1945, Operation Crossroads test at Bikini Atoll in 1946, Operation Sandstone from 1948, and hydrogen bomb test from Operation Ivy in the Pacific in 1952.
Nice.
Yeah, so those tests were heavily documented by the US military with hundreds of cameras. Some of that footage went into newsreel libraries, and that's where Kubrick got it from. Mm-hmm. I mean, the US military probably getting it out there. Look at us, blowing the planet up. Great.
It's meant to be just a warning, isn't it? It's all dick measuring.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, look what we can do. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And that takes us to the end of Dr. Strangelove. We've watched the world end, essentially. Mushroom clouds, Vera Lynn, and an audacious ending even for Stanley.
Yep.
A fitting finale to a pretty strange film.
Yeah, absolutely.
Strange is the word, yep.
Reception and awards.
So that is Dr. Strangelove, and it opened in cinemas on January the 29th, 1964.
Yeah.
How did it do? Well, Matt the Stat's been locked in the war room crunching numbers all week, and unlike General Ripper, he's willing to share the data. Aren't you, Matt?
I am indeed. So, production budget of $1.8 million, and on that, Doctor Strangelove grossed over $9.1 million worldwide, a very healthy return for Columbia Pictures. And then at the Oscars, as we've been saying, the film was nominated for 4 awards: Best Picture, Best Director for Kubrick, Best Actor for Peter Sellers, Best Adapted Screenplay for Kubrick, Peter George and Terry Southern, but didn't win any of them. As we've said, lost out to My Fair Lady and Beckett.
Yeah. Healthy profit and 4 nominations for a black comedy about nuclear war, so it did all right, I think.
Pretty good going, yeah, to be fair.
There was one problem, though. 4 years after Peter George wrote Red Alert, 2 authors called Eugene Burdick and Harvey Wheeler came out with a more successful novel about nuclear war called Failsafe. This was optioned for a film adaptation, so Kubrick and George sued, saying that Failsafe had plagiarised Red Alert. It didn't stop the release of Failsafe as a film, but did push it back. It came out 9 months after Doctor Strangelove.
Yes, starring Henry Fonda, directed by Sidney Lumet, Failsafe, so some high quality involved.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a bit weird, because as part of the settlement, Columbia agreed to buy Failsafe as well, so they produced Doctor Strangelove and Failsafe.
Right.
Well, they didn't care. They just want to make money, don't they?
Well, exactly, yeah. Drop a couple of bombs.
Yeah. It's like Dante's Peak and Volcano.
Armageddon and Deep Impact.
There you go. It's happened all the time. Happens all the time.
And the first test screening of Doctor Strangelove for the press was scheduled for November 22nd, 1963. On that day, though, famously, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, and as a result, the premiere of Doctor Strangelove was delayed until late January 1964.
Yeah, surely you can't release this at the time of the biggest political trauma in US history, I don't think.
No.
The public probably not in the mood for a political black comedy at that point, I don't think.
No, definitely not.
And some changes were made to the film as well. In the first act, when Kong is reading out the aircraft survival kit, he says, a fella could have a pretty good weekend in Vegas with all that stuff. The line originally said Dallas and not Vegas, so Pickens was brought in to overdub the line, but you can still see him mouth Dallas in the film.
You can, yeah.
Yes, that had to change, obviously, yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
And also the pie fight that we talked about, that had a line after Muffley gets hit in the face and Turgidson catches him and says, "Oh, President cut down in the prime of his life."
Oh, wow.
I mean, that line obviously wouldn't have made it in.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
No.
Columbia weren't confident about the film before it came out and weren't sure how to market it. The studio heads Abe Schneider and Mo Rothman distanced themselves from the production and didn't attend any screenings. And Terry Southern said that Rothman told him, "New York does not say anything funny about the end of the world."
Fair enough, yeah.
I think that started the change with the trailer. The trailer was done by Pablo Ferro, who we talked about doing the titles at the start.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite well known. It's got all these quick cuts and titles on the screen, like a xylophone, I think's in there.
Right.
It's fantastic if you've not seen it. But Ferro's fingerprints are all over this film. I think big contribution to its kind of visual identity with the titles and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it has a famous poster as well. The French-American satirical artist Tommy Undre designed it with illustrations of B-52 bombers and 2 leaders on either side of a globe connected by a telephone line.
The hotline suspense comedy. That's the tagline.
Yeah.
It is a great poster. I really like it.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
On to the critics then. As usual, Roger Ebert up first. What did Rog say about Doctor Strangelove, do we think? Out of 4?
Oh, I would have loved it.
4 out of 4, surely.
For all full marks.
Of course, it was the full 4 stars from Rog.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he said, filled with great comedic performances and made from rudimentary physical props, Doctor Strangelove becomes arguably the best political satire of the century, proving that people trying to be serious and failing are funnier than those trying to be funny.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Best of the century. High praise from Rog. Bosley Crowther of the New York Times had a more complicated response.
Okay.
He said, Doctor Strangelove is beyond any question the most shattering sick joke I've ever come across.
Wow.
One of the cleverest and most incisive satiric thrusts at the folly of the military ever put on screen, with parts almost beyond compare. Yet I am troubled by its malefic and sick contempt for virtually our whole defence establishment.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it's meant to be, isn't it?
It's not a patriotic film, no.
It works then.
Exactly, that's the point, yeah. I kind of like that some people thought about it like that. Kubrick ruffling feathers, as usual.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
And in a retrospective review, Empire magazine gave the film the full 5 stars out of 5 and said, the collapse of the Cold War may have left Kubrick's satire and mutually assured destruction less relevant than it was, but it still features Peter Sellers' finest 3 performances, as well as proving that the supposedly humorless Kubrick was up for a laugh.
Yeah.
With some stipulations.
Yeah. He did have a sense of humour, I think, in some of his films.
Eventually, yep.
Yeah.
Of course he did, yep.
And today on Rotten Tomatoes, Dr. Strangelove has an enormous 98% approval rating from critics
Wowza.
and 94% from audiences. And on IMDb, it is 8.3 out of 10, which places it number 83 on the IMDb Top 250. And that is one place below Braveheart and one above Princess Mononoke.
Right.
3 films that maybe couldn't be more different there.
No, definitely not.
That's where I would have put it.
Yeah.
Is this your list, Westy?
It is.
So the response to Dr. Strangelove was strong on its release, a big box office return, 4 Oscar noms, and critical praise despite some nervousness. And today regarded as one of the great satires, a film that's only grown in reputation over the decades.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Sequels and influence.
Dr. Strangelove didn't spawn any direct sequels, although maybe surprisingly, it wasn't for the lack of trying. And even more surprisingly, Kubrick was involved. Some follow-up efforts were made, weren't they, Matt?
There were. Terry Gilliam later said that in the early 90s, Kubrick had asked Terry Southern to start working on a Strangelove sequel, and he wanted Gilliam to direct it. Southern didn't get further than laying out a few index cards as plot points, but it was called Son of Strangelove, and would have been set after Doomsday in the underground bunkers Strangelove talks about.
Yes, Terry Southern passed away in 1995, so it never happened. Gilliam said that he'd love to have done it, though.
I bet.
I'd have loved to have seen it, yeah?
Yeah.
It was Brazil, presumably, that made Kubrick want Terry Gilliam.
Yeah.
I would have thought so.
The film's influence, however, that does exist. How do we see it, Westy? What's the legacy of Dr. Strangelove?
I mean, the legacy is that it's an incredibly popular film. It still works. It's still relevant. And I think it's influenced a lot of directors, either directly or not directly, where especially satire and comedy and where that's moved forward and the blurring of the lines between the two. You know, like you've mentioned there, I think Brazil doesn't exist without Dr. Strangelove, to be honest. But even stuff that you don't think it's going to be relevant to. I mean, Spielberg was massively influenced by Kubrick, and we know that, but to have this middle part influence the opening sequence of Saving Private Ryan, which people said is one of the best opening sequences of all time.
Yeah.
And then Schindler's List as well, the way that's shot, the black and white in that has a very, very distinct look to it. The way it's lit, it's all very hard sources, and I think Spielberg took a lot from this. I mean, you could sit here and list all of the films that it's influenced, but I think there'd be far too many, and we just don't have time. So I think, as all Kubrick films do, they've influenced countless filmmakers since.
Yeah, the influence is massive, I think. I mean, firstly, on Kubrick. Like I said, I think this is the film where he became the iconic director that he is now. And then he followed this up with 2001. I mean, Get Out.
Yeah, forget about it.
Yeah.
Its influence on other films is huge. It wasn't the first ever satire, but I think you can definitely see the influence of this on the likes of Airplane, like we talked about, Blazing Saddles, Brazil, any comedy or satire that goes for like surrealism.
Yeah.
They're looking at Strangelove as an influence, surely.
Yeah.
And just the war room, that image of the huge round table, heads of state sitting around it, a huge strategic board in the background. That's like the classic image of politics as a game of life and death. You see it in Bond films.
Yeah.
Watchmen, the classic graphic novel, that's got the exact same image in it.
Oh, yeah.
And the same with the rodeo ride bomb shot at the end. We still see that in satirical cartoons and the like, and we all know what that means, like gleeful warmongering.
Yeah.
So, yeah, still the benchmark of Hollywood political satire, I think, and its influence has been around since 1964. Probably always will be.
Yeah, similar, really. You think any political satire lives in the shadow of this one. I mean, we've mentioned him already, but it's no surprise Armando Iannucci adapted this for the stage with Steve Coogan.
Nice.
In the Peter Sellers roles, because
Yeah.
the ridiculous nature of this and the politicians in this is definitely informed all of his work. The Thick of It, Death of Stalin, Veep. They've all got Dr. Strangelove's DNA running right through them. We've talked about the Bond influence. Obviously, Ken Adam did Dr. No before this, but even so, I think this gives him the confidence to go even bigger for the Bond films he did after that. And even moments like we've just said, like Michael Moore doing the What a Wonderful World over the 9/11 footage in Bowling for Columbine. He's definitely taken that from this.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, Sellers, not the first actor to take multiple roles in a film, but I think he sets the bar of what you can do when you do that.
Yeah.
You know, no one's come close to him doing that. So, yeah, this one has a big, big legacy.
So from the mid-1960s, the US government started changing policy around the authorization and launching nuclear missiles. Well, thankfully. So that they added electronic locks called permissive action links, stricter two-person rules, and psychological screening to make it much harder for a single officer to launch a nuclear weapon, like Ripper does in the film.
Yeah, they said it was nothing to do with Strangelove, but these changes in policy apparently did start being implemented right after the film came out, so a coincidence, if nothing else.
Yeah, what a beautiful coincidence. I'm so pleased it did happen. Yeah.
And we mentioned the influence of the war room, and Ken Adams' design had become a template for real places as well. Journalists have compared Vladimir Putin's National Defense Management Center, the circular table at the 2009 G20 summit, and FIFA's boardroom to the Strangelove set.
Have you seen the FIFA boardroom? It's the war room. It's crazy.
Is it?
Yeah.
Right, I've not actually seen that.
What's on the table, love? It's a beauty.
It's a video pitch, yeah. I think a behind-the-scenes satire about the goings on of FIFA would be pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, that.
It would be. Yeah, that's a good shout.
Yeah.
And also on real-life politics, there's a famous story about when Ronald Reagan became president in 1981. He apparently asked his chief of staff to show him the war room, and he had to say, yeah, that's not real, Mr. President.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Wow.
Yeah, put these guys in charge of the country.
Ronald Reagan, the actor.
Who the hell is John F. Kennedy?
So no sequels to Dr. Strangelove, despite some work being done, but the film's influence has been pretty immeasurable. Real changes to nuclear weapons policy, whether coincidental or not. Reagan thinking the war room was real, to its design being echoed in everything from superhero stories to FIFA.
Yeah.
That's still weird to me.
Yeah.
So the film's influence is pretty difficult to overstate, I think.
Absolutely. The fact that it hasn't even stopped, it's still influential now.
Yeah, exactly.
All the right movies ranking.
And we've done it. Dr. Strangelove, start to finish. We've learned how to stop worrying and love the bomb. And now it's time for us to drop some bombs of our own as we each rate the film out of 10.
Oof.
Matt, you chose the film, so do you want to kick us off? Your summary and score for Dr. Strangelove, please.
Certainly. I mean, this is a very easy and straightforward one, really. An absolute one-off of a film to take such a terrifying subject, not give any false hope, and if anything, say, yeah, we are on the precipice of self-destruction all the time and no one is smart enough to stop it. And then to make that so funny at the same time is quite the balancing act. And it's not lost one bit of power since, and I think it's only Kubrick could have pulled this off, and it's only Peter Sellers could have given the performances that this film needed to work. And another shout out to George C. Scott, because he's so underrated in this as well.
Yeah.
And ultimately, my very first episode on this podcast was the Rankin Kubrick episode, and I said back then,
That's right, yeah.
Dr. Strangelove is probably my favourite Kubrick film. I mean, it's pretty much neck and neck with The Shining. Very little in between them. I've just lived with this one a little bit longer, so therefore it's just a very, very easy 10 for me.
Nice.
Lovely. Yeah, lots to cover with this one. And like I said, it's one of the most significant films in Kubrick's career. I think the writing from Kubrick, Southern and George, to call it sharp, undersells it.
Yeah.
The satire and the surreal comedy, the way it takes, at the time, the very real threat of nuclear war and finds humour in it. That's all impressive. I think the performances are all excellent. I'm always surprised by George C. Scott, but Peter Sellers is just operating on some crazy godlike level of comedy.
Yeah.
Here, 3 characters, all memorable, all different. One of the great comedy performances. It might be number 1.
Wow.
And also a Ken Adams War Room set, one of the great pieces of production design. An all-time iconic image, as is Major Kong riding the bomb at the end, and Gilbert Taylor cinematography, that black and white documentary style, an inspired choice, and I think that still holds up. So one of the great satires in Kubrick, proving that he could do comedy as well as like everything else. It's not one that I come back to all that much, so I'm not going full marks, but it is an easy peasy 9 out of 10 for me.
Fair enough.
And Westy, your summary and score for Dr. Strangelove, please.
Yeah, I mean, after everything that we've spoken about, I think what we haven't touched on is that this is the film that came out that showed people just how powerful cinema is.
Yeah.
It changed public opinion on a lot of things, and governments changed, policies changed. Everyone kind of changed because they saw somebody's opinion, and that opinion happened to be absolutely spot on. I think it's a really important film. I think it's a really funny film. I think it's a really relevant film. I think it's one of the best performances that I'll never get tired of from Peter Sellers and George C. Scott. I think they're absolutely incredible. I don't come back to it often because I know every time I come back to it, it's always going to be a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's one of the best that Kubrick's produced. It's one of the best comedies ever made, and it's his only comedy. For that reason, it's got to be top marks for me. It's absolutely fantastic film, and if you've got to this far in the podcast and you still haven't seen it, do yourself a favour. Absolute 10 out of 10 for me. 4 marks.
We also put this out there to our ATRM patrons to get their thoughts. No comments from any rogue Air Force generals, thankfully.
Oh, thankfully.
But the feedback was overwhelmingly positive, so let's see what our patrons had to say, should we?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So Tom Cole said, one of those films my dad loves and quotes a lot. I managed to catch it with him at one of the local indie cinemas and it was amazing on the big screen. Fantastic stuff. A solid 10 out of 10.
Nice.
A film passed on through the generations and seeing it on the big screen must have been great. The War Room at that size.
War Room, amazing.
Oh, yeah, be incredible, yeah.
Julie Bennett said, completely relevant today and entirely ahead of its time. Brilliant casting. 10 for Slim Pickens alone.
Wow, yeah, great.
Pickens has pulled out the bag, even though he didn't know exactly what was going on.
No.
Not really, but it
Got a
works.
nice surprise when he saw it. Yeah.
Really works for his character, though, doesn't it?
And relevant today, I would agree with that. I mean, the Cold War isn't part of our politics now, but these characters don't feel alien at all to me.
Not at all. I think the policies and the politics and the mentality is still exactly the same.
Yeah.
That's why this is so important.
Yeah.
And Ewan Campbell said, probably my favourite film of all time.
Wow.
A combination of silly and clever that I love, also seen in Four Lions and The Life of Brian. Superb performances, one of the most iconic sets ever made, and brave to make in the climate in the US at that time. Up there with Casablanca for memorable dialogue.
Wow, great shout.
Four Lions and Life of Brian are great satires. I'm not sure it has quite as many iconic lines as Casablanca, what does,
Yeah.
but the ones it has are just as huge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for very different reasons.
Yeah.
So positive across the board from our patrons, and altogether they rated the film as, what do you think, out of 10?
I don't think it's going to get top, but I might do because it's Kubrick. I'm going to go like 9.8.
We don't work in point eights.
I know, but imagine if we did, I'd be absolutely correct. I'm going to go 10. Fuck it, go 10.
I'll back myself. It's a 10.
You were almost there, Westy. It was 9.5 out of 10.
I was going to say 9.5 as well, but I thought I'd just be a bit of a tosser about it and go 9.8. Oh, well. It's my personality backfired again.
So in total, like you struck the Strangelove, a combined 38.5 out of 40.
Nice.
Wow.
Dropping the bomb.
Yep.
Next time out, Luke, Westy and Matt are swapping the war room for the drawing room.
Yeah.
Every member of the Thromby family has an MMO as you guys talk Ryan Johnson, Daniel Craig and their 21st century whodunit, Knives Out.
Yeah.
Yes. Sound stuff.
A murder mystery with that cast should be a killer episode, that, surely.
It compels me. Compels me.
Matt's very excited about this one.
Well, in the meantime, to find out more about becoming a patron, supporting what we do, and accessing our archive and bonus episodes, please visit patreon.com/alltherightmovies or click the subscribe link on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And please follow us on the podcast platform of your choice. If you could leave a 5-star review as well, that really helps us out.
Absolutely. Pointless doing anything else.
Absolutely.
Just a waste of time doing 4s and 3s, and you have to explain yourself, as was said before. You might as well not do that. Just put straight 5. Beautiful.
There you go. No arguments.
Exactly.
Socially, you can keep up with All the Right Movies on Twitter or X, where we are at ATRM Movies. We post threads on there that tell the stories behind classic films. Everything we post has been said by someone involved in the production or comes from 3 separate sources, which is the same rules for our podcast, so check that out. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok as well, and we have a movie group on Facebook.
We do.
Jam-packed full of fantastic people and fantastic film chat, so join that.
Great discussion there.
No fighting allowed in there.
No.
No.
Definitely not.
And our website with great features is alltherightmovies.com.
It is.
We're all off now to plan for the end of the world.
Yeah.
Matt, I think you're hoping for that 10-to-1 ratio, aren't you?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, with donuts.
Well, come back next time for Knives Out. And as always, thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Take care.